state legislature is Republican. What I don't understand is you keep saying they're going to have to recount it because there's fraud, but you can't actually explain where the fraud is, what the fraud is.
Yeah, exactly. I can't, but there's a lot of fraud going on.
You give a about you, Doomsday. It has nothing to do with me. I give a about you. They don't give a about you.
Why to you is it such an infringement on freedom to wear a mask? That's what I'm asking.
It's annoying as hell, that's why.
Is it more annoying than death? But they have tried to ban transgenders from the military, other restrictions, employment discrimination against transgenders.
Well, that has stopped now since the Supreme Court ruling.
Right, but President Trump is the one who instituted it.
Right, but he was opposed to people joining the military for the sole purpose of being funded for sex change therapy. You know,
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Was following me outside. Was following me outside. I have credentials. I can show it to you. Is this how you treat the press? Do you see what's going on here? And then somebody came up to my cameraman without saying a word and just ripped his press thing off.
Look, man, I'm not happy at all. $600 million is not enough, because how do you put a price tag on my kids' brains, their organs, my heart, you know, like all of the stuff that's happened because of this, the layered trauma, the deaths. There is literally no way to put a dollar sign on it.
Can you answer people 6 years later, is the water back to normal here?
Absolutely not.
The DNC just reached out to all the other candidates, and they pretty much just conspired to support Joe Biden. And I mean, just intervening with the democratic process.
The brotherhood is great, but we have something we're fighting for. That's why I joined the Proud Boys. So like, the brotherhood is great, but I joined it because I wanted to beat up some commies, man.
So we started to shut down city councils every single Wednesday for about close to 3 years on issues concerning houseless.
Black Lives Matter wants to eliminate police because actually the founders, if you read their page, they claim to be 3 lesbian separatists who hate black men. If you remove the police, they hate the nuclear family and they don't like heterosexuality.
Depressed. There's no other way to feel. There's no other way to feel except depressed, except angry, except upset, except not surprised. Unfortunately.
The live stream earlier, it was completely peaceful. People were blowing bubbles, people were squeaking rubber ducks. Absolutely peaceful. So you're the head of Proud Boys, you're from Florida. Chairman, okay. So what do you think about this event? Like, what was your goal here?
Our number one goal was really to get, and we could see it right behind you guys, really to get the police to do their job and to offer them the tools in order to get them to do their job. Now they have the ability to use CS gas, which is really important to us.
It's time that we get resources that we need. It's time that I get a full-time nurse at my school. It's time that I get a full-time counselor and resources in my community.
And the invisible prison of wealth inequality in itself that you talk about all the time. Why would Rachel Maddow ever, get out with a camera and microphone and put herself into that?
Chris Smalls is leading the march. Chris Smalls was an Amazon worker in Staten Island, New York, who was fired for trying to organize for safety.
He got rid of illegal, what's it called? He deported more people than any other president. And Trump
Prior to him.
Yeah.
So
Trump is a good old boy. Like, he just loves America, and he's not into identity politics. I'm not,
It's about the lives that are forever changed by these fires.
Poisoning the news that we are fed with those tainted sources. All we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hi, everyone, and hello. Welcome to the wonderful Ron Placone. I hope everyone in the audience is doing well. Ron, what say you? What do you have to say to the people?
Well, hello. First of all, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to be here, and I enjoyed the little pre-video, seeing all the work you guys do on the ground and your boots on the ground for everything that's going on. And I know out here, Tina always finds her way into trouble, but
Yes,
it's
she does.
what's that quote? It's good trouble. It's good trouble.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, there's the Proud Boys are showing up in my neighborhood this weekend. So I mean the one bright spot is I'll probably get to hang out with Tina. So
Yeah, true.
there's that part.
Where the Proud Boys are, there's Tina.
Yeah. So
doing her reporting. You know what's crazy? She was told by the Freedom Press Tracker that she's one of the top top 1% of assaulted journalists in the country, based on their data. That might not be the exact, it was like some astonishing number, the amount of times that she's been assaulted for reporting, either by police or by people like Proud Boys. It's scary. It's horrifying. But
well, there's
she's
that. I
a
mean,
badass.
she got punched and it went viral, and she, she did an excellent job on Democracy Now. And yeah, I mean, I remember the day that hit the news where it was just like, oh, Tina got punched. It's everywhere. But
yeah, it really was all over Twitter. It got coverage, and I think like the LA Times, the Guardian, etc. Yeah, she's a badass. I did invite her today. I don't know if she'll pop on or not. She's been very busy, actually dealing with a lot of the back end sort of stuff that comes with doing this reporting.
Her and I started a philosophy podcast because we both have past lives as academics. And we kind of started a podcast about that, like why we left and just our take on it, and how a lot of philosophy applies to just our everyday world. It was a fun thing, but yeah, we haven't been able to do it in a hot minute because
I was wondering about that. Yeah, I was looking
she's always covering something. She's always out there, and we can't. I mean, it's like, hey, I know you're covering this event where people are going crazy and trying to hit you, but can we talk about Diogenes? Can you just kind of duck out in the corner and we'll do some philosophizing, and then we'll get a beer or something.
The only thing that I took, because I went to a liberal arts college, and you had to take a bunch of different things. I took, the intro philosophy course, and I found it so interesting. I liked it a lot, but all my stuff was graded by a TA who I swear was sleeping with a teacher, and she always gave me B's, and I'm still mad. And so I have a grudge against philosophy. But Tina told me that there's one philosopher who she assigned me one, oh, that's your person. And I can't remember. I always forget. I swear I've texted her 10 times in the last year. What is that philosopher? It starts with an S. Damn. I'll have to think of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Damn, what's his name? If anyone can think of any S.
Are you thinking Socrates?
No, no, not. I do know that one. Oh,
I'm not sure actually.
Damn. Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
I'm not sure who that could. Yeah, off the top of my head. I'm sure once you say it, it'll be like, oh yeah, but.
Right, of course. That's how it always is. I am so sad that I haven't. For those who don't know, I was in LA about a year ago, and it was just I got a lot of good reporting in, but also it was a fun time because I got to hang out with you. It was Tina's 50th birthday. And I'm so sad that I haven't been able to get out there.
Come on out. LA's a fun time. I mean, it's it's a crumbling empire like the rest of the country, but the weather's great. You can, I
True.
mean, you
It's
can
good
enjoy
weather.
it with a coastline and palm trees, and that just makes the pill easier to swallow, I feel like.
Well, I was looking at your the trailer for your movie, which we're gonna plug and talk about, but the view where you're like where it's like the opening thumbnail, it's like I want to be there.
That's my neighborhood. You got to come visit.
Ah,
That's my neighborhood.
yeah,
That's why I look
just
out the window. That's what I
really
see.
incredible. Oh my gosh. What a lucky ducky you are. But and also we have to tell folks and people who are watching yesterday know that I just adopted a cat. I've technically I have had a cat, but it was for like a day before it ran away when I was really, really young, when I actually was living in California. And my mother and stepfather were just like, well, there it went. So I've had a bad like feeling about that. And then I just have never, I've always had dogs, etc. But I went to the shelter and I got myself the cutest little kitty, which Colin just put up on the screen. And my kids named her Leia for Princess Leia. And as all of you know in the audience, Lucy is Ron's sidekick. Little kitty, so
yeah,
cute.
she's asleep on the couch right now. She's chilling, but she was hanging out. I did my patron stream earlier, and she jumped up at one point. That's she decides when she wants to make an appearance, and she'll kind of just jump up, and then it's like she's there, and then I'll be like, hey, Lucy, saying hi, and yeah, they're
they do
it's
have
special.
a mind
I'm
of their
thrilled.
own.
They really do, and I'm thrilled I'm thrilled you've become a cat person, and that you got Leia in your life now, and that'll
Love it. Everyone can see that my
awesome.
my Bernie painting is crooked in the background. That's because she's just like figured out that she can jump up on my chair and get to the bookshelf and then like mess with the painting, and so good times for all. So anyway,
she's saying we got to go beyond electoralism. General strike now. We got revolution.
Like,
revolution. The time for incrementalism is over.
Yes, exactly. Maybe we'll get her on for some of her commentary on that topic later. But we do have some important topics that we're going to talk about today. I don't want to spring anything on you, Ron, but we're going to talk about the John Deere strike, which I think is a great kind of spark. We've had these ongoing strikes from so many different companies, which I'll go over the list as well. But this one seems to have kind of taken hold and made news in a way that others have not. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about there in DC right now, there are ongoing protests, week-long protests against fossil fuels. And indeed, Indigenous folks from across the country, and specifically Minnesota, where they're fighting Line 3, are in DC right now, over 100, and they are occupying a bureau right now and getting arrested en masse. And they're just really fighting.
Some of them got arrested right outside the White House.
It's just, how do you stomach that as a, well, we'll get into it. It makes, it's infuriating. And then we're going to talk about the Facebook lists, and we're going to talk about the oil spill right by you. Actually, I have no idea where Huntington Beach is. Okay. I assumed it was by you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so, all of those things are connected. That's the oil spill in Huntington Beach, which I'll get your take on this, but it seems like they're kind of trying to make it seem not as bad in the media now, and kind of trying to backtrack a little bit on, oh, it's okay, guys. It's all right.
They do the same thing every time, whether it happens in Huntington Beach or anywhere else in the world, they do the same thing where they're just like, someone just made a boo-boo.
Right.
Something weird just happened, and whoopsie daisy, and it's some worker's fault. Instead of, no, this happens all the time. How did this happen? We're still on fossil fuels. That's how it happened.
Exactly. It is just yet another infuriating thing. And we're going to talk about electoralism versus other stuff. And we're going to talk about your incredible upcoming movie, which are you doing it with Graham Do I have that right? Or no?
I'm
Just you?
hoping that Graham will direct it, but right
Okay.
now
Okay.
we're in the beginning stages of funding and all that other stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping that Graham will be involved, but right now it's just one step at a time.
Okay, I'm so excited about it. I can't wait until we'll get right into it. So everybody get pumped up for that. So Colin, so if you guys hear me talking to Colin, you guys all know Colin. He's in the background, the producer. Awesome.
Colin's
Colin.
on the ones and twos.
Colin's the absolute best. So let's talk about this John Deere strike. If everyone in the audience, I'm sure you've actually seen this in the news today, which is a pretty big surprise, if I'm being honest. There have been so many strikes going on. And as I said at the top of the show, I will show you a list of them. And it's an incredibly long list. It's taking off. Whiskey companies, cereal companies, just so many. And the near you in Hollywood.
Yeah, the theater and studio workers. Yeah.
And that's going to be huge.
Yeah. That is going to be huge. Yeah. We can get into it. We'll break them down.
So,
but
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's taking off. And I think like this is what we've been talking about. I'm sure you have too. On our show, we've been talking about the need for a general strike. And I am so encouraged by this. By the way, Bernie Sanders posted today, Solidarity Forever. And I have to show everyone once again what's upside down. But this is the tattoo that I got, guys, when Bernie won Nevada. And I didn't get it for Bernie. I got it because when you're getting a tattoo, you want it to be something that will be, mean something for the rest of your life. And if I get like Bernie Sanders' face or something, like that's not what this is about. It's about other people. It's about all of us. It's about, not me, us. It's about solidarity forever. And, Solidarity Forever is the old Union song, and it's so meaningful. So every day I'm glad that I got this crazy tattoo in the midst of excitement in Vegas when Bernie won.
Well, when in Vegas, of course.
When in Vegas. And actually several people did. A bunch of people got them.
That's badass. Did you ever see just a quick aside? Did you ever see that video where this girl shows Bernie her Bernie tattoo? Did you ever see
No.
Oh, you gotta see it.
What was his reaction? Oh,
It was a really nice moment. Because it's this girl and it was a younger girl. And she had this Bernie tattoo and she shows it to him. And he just looks like a kind of disappointed grandpa.
Right. That's what I'm
like he just looks like, young lady, why did you do that? Like it was
oh my gosh,
fun
I
moment.
have to see that. That sounds
I'm
so
sure
cute.
you can find it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's out there. But
Oh,
it was during the primary when a lot of us had a lot more hope in our hearts.
sure, of course. And now here we are. The world.
Here we are.
the whole world's on fire. All
What
right,
went
let's
wrong? Everything.
yeah. Since then, all downhill. just a whole disaster. Nothing good. Colin, let's talk. Pull up the UAW press release and let's talk about this John Deere strike. So, this is, hold on one second. Let me pop it up on my computer here. Sorry for the delay, my friends. So there's a lot to this story, but the nuts and bolts of it. So this is the United Automobile, bunch of A's, Aerospace, Agricultural Workers of America. So UAW members at John Deere strike for improved standard of living, retirement benefits, and a better work environment. So they started the strike at midnight today after the company failed to present an agreement that met members' demands and needs. Our members at John Deere strike for the ability to earn a decent living, retire with dignity, and establish fair work rules, said Chuck Browning, Vice President and Director of the UAW's Agricultural Implement Department. We stay committed to bargaining until our members' goals are achieved. UAW President Ray Curry said the almost 1 million UAW retirees and active members stand in solidarity with the striking UAW members at John Deere. Curry noted that UAW John Deere members have worked through the pandemic after the company deemed them essential to produce the equipment that feeds America, builds America, and powers the American economy. These essential UAW workers are showing us all that through the power of a strong, united union voice on the picket line, they can make a difference for working families here and throughout the country. Over 10,000 members at John Deere locations set up pickets. Pickets have been set up and our members are organized and ready to hold out and fight for a contract they believe meets their needs, says Ron McKinroy, director of UAW Region 4. Our members and their families appreciate the community support they have already gotten. Strikes are not easy, but some things are worth fighting for. These are skilled, tedious jobs that UAW members take pride in every day, said Mitchell Smith, UAW Region 8 director. Strikes are never easy on workers or their families, but John Deere workers believe they deserve a better share of the pie, a safer workplace, and adequate benefits. And Colin, can you pop up the Bernie Sanders tweet that talks about how much John Deere has earned? So this I find striking, and this kind of sums up why these folks are striking. Profits at John Deere have skyrocketed by some 61% in recent years, while its CEO's salary has exploded by 160% since the start of the pandemic. Please do not tell me they cannot afford to pay their workers fairly. I am proud to stand in solidarity with the UAW members on strike. And so for a little bit more context, Colin, can you put up the Jonah Furman thread, not the one that has the letter from the member, but the actual thread that starts with, 1 second, for anyone just catching up, that one. There you go. Yeah, for anyone just catching up on the 10,000 worker UAW strike at John Deere, here's how you can get up to speed. So Jonah Furman at Labor Notes has been doing a fantastic job of following this even before it made big news. So as we scroll down, the history of this strike puts everything into context. So in early September, Deere presented a disastrously bad first offer to the membership. They likely wanted to lower expectations by super lowballing them, but ended up pissing everybody off. And members authorized a strike by 99%. Imagine how much it takes to get a group of people to agree to something at a 99% rate.
Well, especially here in the United States, where it's like we have a system set up that it's not easy for people to strike, and that's by design. I mean, so many people, they're one paycheck away from missing rent or not being able to get groceries. So people are scared to strike. So yeah, you have to really, really piss people off where 99% of them, I mean, if there were 100 workers, one guy was like, I don't know, I'm kind of freaking nervous. I really, do we want to risk Taco Tuesdays? And everyone else is like, fuck you, buddy. Sorry. Are we allowed to curse here?
Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can.
But,
Colin's become very adept at bleeping Jordan's curses, for example.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough.
He does
sorry, Colin.
No, yeah, when he does the clips later. So it's all good.
I got you.
So the number goes down a little bit as we go through, like from the 99%, but it's still very high. You guys will see. So they get to the edge of a strike on October 1st, but at the very last second, the UAW and Deere announced an extension, averting a strike and further pissing off members. Then a tentative agreement that they wouldn't let anyone see for a week. Continuing down on Sunday, so meaning this past Sunday, members shocked both the union and the company by rejecting the contract by a whopping 90%, with 90% of members voting. This seems to have been a wake-up call to the UAW, who quickly announced a strike deadline of tonight. And by the way, we won't get into this today, but there are some issues that some of these workers have with the UAW itself, including, voting in leaders, etc., which is a whole other issue. Just because it's union doesn't mean it's perfect. So 90%, with 90% of members voting, is still incredibly enormous. Going down today, management continued to threaten workers and pressure them to settle, while non-union salaried workers began leaking documents to Labor Notes, which is what Jonah Furman is a part of, and expressing their support of the union members' cause. Hovering in the background of all this is a national referendum in the UAW on direct elections for top union officers. So this is what I was referencing. This is in response to the historic corruption scandal, but also fueled by members' anger at decades of givebacks and concessions. So the Deere strike in particular is about corporate profits against stagnating wages, decades of two-tier and concessionary contracts coming home to roost, a member revolt against the status quo, tacitly endorsed by the status quo, and a tight labor market and the pandemic. And so continuing on, Colin, if you can pop up the letter from the Deere worker. This is pretty damn striking. So this is, again, something that was sent to Jonah Furman, the reporter from @Labor Notes. A Deere worker asked me to share this statement anonymously. It really gets to the frustration the membership have been feeling towards both Deere and the UAW bargaining committee and how this has built up to this point. So the letter from this anonymous worker says, a month before October 1st, the call was a whisper. Some more fervent spoke of a strike, but most vitriol spoken was tinged with the pain of callous bruises, exploitation, and continual degradation from the company, and the seeming willingness of the UAW International to sell out union members. The strike authorization vote in September was seen as posturing. Without it, the UAW could do little but roll over in negotiations. Very few thought it would actually be called, despite the desire for a strike being present. I mean, everybody can imagine how terrifying this is. We're in a pandemic and people need money, even if it's not as much money as they deserve. So kind of what do you do? Continuing on with the letter, UAW Deere employees expected to be left out in the cold. This was only magnified when October 1st came, went, and anticipation turned into extension. It continues on. When the first tentative agreement was announced, employees were suspicious. Rightly so. The contract was lackluster. The word no was on the lips of anyone who spoke about it, and the vote Sunday, October 10th, was predictable. However, that wasn't the sheer magnitude of the solidarity. About 90% rejection across the board, a figure equally as unexpected as the UAW setting of a strike deadline. Perhaps the UAW was forced to bare their teeth. Rumors abounded. Non-wage employees being trained and assessed for line work, the union representatives on Monday being stonewalled by Deere's executives, the possibility of walkout, whose shifts were canceled, whose factories, which had high-level supervisors patrolling and propagandizing like prowling lions on the floor, and so on. Since Sunday's vote, the fever pitch was reached as a great crescendo. The impetus was there, the opportunity presented, the desire to strike patent, and 10,000 wait for midnight to hear if their fervor will be met with solidarity or a blind eye. And so now we know the answer to that. It is right now, at this moment, being met with solidarity. And then, Colin, before we chat about this, if you can just play, I think it's three separate clips, just all three of the clips that I have. They're quite short, but this will give you guys some insight into what's actually happening there on the ground now that workers are striking, and we have gotten permission to use these clips. 1 second.
UAW 74! UAW 74! Yeah! Let's go, brothers and sisters. Hold that line. UAW 74! UAW 74! They don't have food, do they? John Deere on strike. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome sauce. Yeah.
So those are just some short clips. The first one is from More Perfect Union, which you guys should all follow. It's actually run by some former Bernie folks like Fez, etc. So thank you so much to More Perfect Union. You can find them on Twitter and so on. They do good work for letting us use those clips. So there are about 10,000 workers on strike right now, which, historically John Deere has gone on strike, but that was decades ago. And so this is something new. What's your first kind of take about this, Ron, about the fact that this is happening?
Well, I mean, my first take is that this is awesome, and I'm glad that it's getting a lot of press. And I mean, there were so many. I mean, Nabisco went on strike, Kellogg's is going on strike, the stage workers here, a lot of it's in LA, they're going on strike. So there's a lot of strikes happening. And I also want to mention, they mentioned how they felt like the UAW, the leadership at the top, wasn't really having their back. As leftists in the United States, I mean, I am very pro-union, except for cops, because every rule has its exception. But for the most part, I am very pro-union. However, we do have to recognize that for a very long time in this country, going back to, years before you and I were born, Jen, there has been a very concentrated effort to defang unions in this country and to reduce membership. And we have low membership of unions throughout the United States. And a lot of times the people at the top are kind of just looking out for the company, not the people. There's still great unions despite all that in the United States. There still are. But there's definitely some corruption going on at the top. And that's very deliberate. And that was through a 60-year effort. I mean, they really started this in the 60s and they've seen a lot of success, unfortunately. So I think that we really need to make it clear in our messaging that we are pro-union because we know what a union can be and we know what a union should be. And, part of the mission is not just to get more membership in unions, but also to foster the good unions and reclaim what it means to be a union and force the bad ones out. So, I think that is an important part of the conversation that we need to address because you'll get met with, and I've gotten this myself. I mean, a guy who I know in my personal life, he was in this union for, I believe it was hotel workers, and they rolled over and they told them, hey, you either get health care or a 401k. You don't get both. What do you mean you don't get both as a worker? So, and that sours people on unions. People don't see that as, this is a systemic thing that they're working against us. They see this as a reason to be against unions. So we got to push back against that and say, no. We need to reclaim what it means to be a union because a union is the only power you got.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting because to kind of look at the history of unions, as you were just referencing, of how, they have lost their teeth. And they've also kind of, in many people's minds, lost their standing of importance. And seeing, for example, which Jordan's reported on a lot, that when Amazon workers, including at the Staten Island warehouse, are trying to unionize, and then down in Bessemer, Alabama, where the propaganda that Amazon puts out against unionizing and really hitting on all these psychological points to get people to not want to join a union, it's disgusting. And I think that they've really kind of sharpened themselves. Yeah.
Oh my God. What they did was so, and again, shout out to you guys, because there was a handful of people talking about this. I mean, I talked about it on my show. Y'all talked about it. But barely anyone covered what was going on in Bessemer. And it was like something out of a dystopian comic book. I mean, the way they took out the traffic lights so that workers couldn't freaking talk to other workers. So for anyone who's not in the know, and I know we don't want to harp on this too much, but like there were workers, one of the few places workers could pass out their information because they couldn't do it inside of Amazon. You weren't allowed to do that. So people would have to pass out flyers while people were stopped at a stoplight going into work. They worked with the city to get those stoplights taken out so that you couldn't talk to people. And the way that they targeted people on breaks, like if someone asked a pro-union question, they would take down your information. I mean, the National Labor Board was against everything Amazon did. Like Amazon was like, can we just put this thing in the middle of the workplace with a bunch of cameras and only we have access to it? And that's how people vote. And the Labor Board was like, no, you fucking psychos. You can't. Oh, sorry, Colleen. No, you can't do that. You really can't do that. And Amazon was like, well, we're going to do it anyway. Did you see? Our guy just went to space in his penis rocket. We're doing it anyway. And they did. And it's just, I mean, I guess like the Labor Board kind of ruled they should have to redo that vote. I don't know where it's at presently. But
yeah, I need to look up where it is at this point, because they found a hell of a lot wrong, including manipulation of the ballot box. It's crazy.
All those no votes randomly in one day, all those no votes just showed up. And of course, it's only our people have access to it, but they wouldn't lie to you. It was unbelievable. You couldn't write fiction like this.
Exactly. It's so disgusting. It's so dystopian. It's something we had hoped to only see in movies, but here we are.
Here we are.
And who knows, what John Deere is doing in the background. These are often stories that without labor reporters, kudos to those who focus on labor, that without them, these things wouldn't come out. And there definitely are not enough of them. There are not enough people digging. And it's really important, I think, to hold these people to account, including the unions themselves, because no one is, I believe, immune to corruption, and especially when it comes to a group and infiltration, etc. One thing I find interesting, Ron, is that it's thought of as, unions are thought of as being a left-wing sort of thing, but when you think about like a John Deere worker in Iowa or Illinois, which is where these folks are mostly based, they're often, across the board. They're not necessarily Democrats. They're not they're not, maybe they're independent, maybe they're whatever, but it's about, the working class. It's about people who see that they're being taken advantage of. I'm curious about your thoughts on how like politics and leftism versus rightism plays into this.
Sure. I mean, I think that they've really, and again, this was through the defanging of unions over the past 60 years. I mean, there was a time where the Republicans were pro-union. The Republican Party was actually pro-union. And of course, the Democrats were too. Now, both parties are anti-union. They are. I mean, Republicans and Democrats are anti-union. So yeah, I mean, they try to make you think like any type of working class solidarity is automatically communism or whatever other buzzword they're using to scare you. And I mean, yes, I am a huge lefty, and unions are one of the many things I am for. But a union is by no means just a left-wing idea. And in fact, who really loves unions? People who are in good ones. Those are people who love unions. And I can tell you, I mean, I'm from the Rust Belt. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. So there is still some union strong stuff going on in that area. And I can point you in the direction of some steel workers in Youngstown, Ohio. I can point you in the direction of some people in the Carpenters Union who I've come across in my life. They are as pro-union as you can possibly get. And I mean, I don't even know the personal politics of all of them. I mean, I don't think they're like super far right or anything, but I don't even know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't even think they're all that political. So yeah, I mean, again, that just goes into the just assault on the working class to kind of just turn people against their own interests.
I wonder if part of that is, propagandistic, that the idea that when we now think of unions, we think of, it's a leftist thing. I wonder if that's part of the whole propaganda part of it, because the union that I was in, I was a teacher, and so I was in, the teachers union, and nobody was against it. The teachers unions they're not immune to corruption or whatever, but they are protective and good. And while I live in a pretty rural area, there was no like, once we had it, it was just like a normal thing. Okay, this is going to protect us. This is helpful for us as teachers. So everyone, regardless of politics, in a particularly kind of right-wing area, was for it and happily paid union dues and et cetera. So a lot of it is, I have to think, falling prey to propaganda when things are up for negotiation, when people are trying to unionize. Obviously, it's something the companies don't want, but I don't know what your thoughts are on how we get around this sort of propaganda to make true changes.
That's a fantastic question. I mean, my first exposure to a union, I was a teenager working at a grocery store. It was my first part-time job. My hair looked a lot like yours, Jen, at the time.
I want to see pictures.
I'll show you some pictures. But I was just pushing these grocery carts outside, collected the carts. That was one of my favorite things to do. Because it kind of got you out of the store and you could spend some time outside. And if you were lucky, one of your coworkers might have been smoking something. But yeah, so I would do that. And this guy came up to me and he said, "Hey," and he gave me his card. And he said, "Just so you know, you're one of us. Part of your paycheck goes to us, even though, you're just a part-time kid in school and whatnot. And so, are they treating you okay here?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I'm happy here." And he said, "Well, if anything changes, you give me a call." And I thought it was so cool. And I don't think this was, I think this was a guy, I don't know what his personal politics were. It's not like he came up to me and he's like, "We're going to control the means of production." I wish he would have done that. That would have been even freaking cooler. But it was still cool to me as a kid. So as far as how we combat that, I think the best way we combat that is by winning. I think the best way we combat that is when you see strikes that are successful. And strikes, let's be real here. When strikes are infiltrated properly, when strikes aren't stopped, when strikes aren't, like just kind of stopped in before they really get going, they pretty much have 100% success rate. Hey, we carried out this strike and nothing got better. Has anyone ever said that? I'm pretty sure they haven't. I'm pretty sure a lot of the factory workers in Germany, they don't have a 28.5-hour work week because they ask nicely. They have it because they strike and they don't take shit. Same within France, Italy, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's how you get past those stigmas that, we have in this country through the help of years of corporate media propaganda. You win. And you show people this isn't about left or right. This isn't about whatever ism you want to throw at it. This is about getting paid a decent wage for your labor. Your labor builds this wealth, and you deserve a living wage, and you deserve a decent vacation, and you deserve to send your kids to college, and you deserve a decent house. You deserve a decent quality of life for your labor. That's what we're sold is the American dream. And that dream's been dead for a long frickin' time. And it's time to take it back. I think that's how we got to win, and we got to show people this is what it means. It's more money in your bank account. It's a better quality of life. And by the way, this isn't anything other than what you deserve. You deserve this. You are a worker. You are the backbone of this country. You are the backbone of this world. You deserve a decent quality of life.
Oh, Ron, that is so good. That's so good. Let's clip that and send it out to all workers. And that's incredibly well said. And I completely agree. I think that strikes are catching, and so is success, or, coming through a strike successfully with having worker demands met.
Hey, I like to tell people I'm not even following playoff baseball, but I am so stoked about strikes right now.
Yeah.
I don't even know which teams are playing, but man, all the strikes I'm seeing, I'm stoked.
Exactly. It's so exciting. And in these days when we really don't have much to look forward to, like COVID death numbers, depressing, what our leaders are doing and not doing.
I'm supposed to be on tour right now. I'm
That's
I'm not
right.
depressed at all.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Ron, like for the audience who doesn't know, Ron, and I think Graham too, you guys were gonna go on tour across the country. And you had a DC date. And I was like, yay, I get to see
That would have been
you.
we would have seen each other last
Yeah.
night. Last night was our
Oh,
but
it would have
yeah,
been, oh my gosh.
I
Man.
mean, obviously it was one of the most it was an incredibly difficult judgment call to make, but we
Sure.
were supposed to do 3 weeks, a city a night for like about almost a month. And we were going all across the country, and we just kind of decided that now it's just not. I mean, we still did some regional stuff because I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
there's a big difference between touring for 3 weeks and doing a show in Los Angeles or San
Yeah.
Francisco.
Mhm.
So we were still able to do some regional stuff, but we did, pull the plug on that tour. We just thought, if there was a breakthrough case or something like that, and we didn't find out until like 4 or 5 cities later, and like
Yeah.
what if someone got sick? I mean, we're both
Mhm.
vaccinated, but what if,
Yeah.
so well, we decided to pull the plug. It was a very difficult choice, but trying to make lemonade out of lemons,
Sure.
focusing on a movie and other projects, and
Mhm.
keep them busy. And when I finally get back out there, I won't say I appreciate it more because it was already my favorite thing in the freaking world. So I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's like if you're a live performer, performing live is your favorite thing. Spoiler, but I think maybe even more so. I'll turn it up to 11, as they like to say. I was at a
Yeah,
10
I'm
before.
sure. Now let's turn it up to 20. No,
Turn it up to
that's
20.
incredibly sad and a hard call. Like, but major kudos to you guys because you're putting people's health ahead of everything. And while it's really hard and it really sucks, yeah, I admire that decision. Hopefully things will start to improve and you can go on tour soon enough and everybody can come see you at that 20 level.
That's
Very excited.
hey, that is one promise I made. I was like, you see me live from now until the rest of my life. Every show is going to be like it's my last time. So
Right.
I'm going to give you everything.
We've all been changed by this, I think,
Yeah.
with all this for better or worse in some cases, unfortunately. But I think, we're going to come out of this. I think some major outlet actually called it like the before times, which people have been saying on Twitter, but I think it was CNN or one of those big outlets that said that, and everyone's like, oh damn, that's true. But I wonder if part of what we're going through with COVID and seeing that companies and billionaires and millionaires, the rich are getting richer,
Yeah.
and the rest of us are getting way poorer and
Yeah.
are sick and dying and can't afford healthcare and this and that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on how COVID affects strikes and the will to strike or
I
the
think
drive?
I think in the like big picture scheme of things, COVID just really exacerbated what was already happening. I mean, we were slowly just descending into straight up neo-feudalism, and COVID just amped it up to 11. And I think it really jolted a lot of people. And a lot of people were just like, we're not going to take this anymore. This is freaking ridiculous. We're not going to, I mean, you guys, people had to, fight tooth and nail for unemployment during a pandemic. You shouldn't have to. When there's a pandemic, one of the reasons we have a federal government is so that when something like a pandemic happens, they got you. That's just something. That's just what most other countries, they understood that people just got checks and there was nothing like wages were covered, businesses were, it was all just frozen. Here we were just like, oh, let's do nothing, see how it works out. Didn't work out too great. Well, except for really freaking rich people in Wall Street. Worked out great for them. They
Yeah.
got one of the largest transfers of wealth ever in human history, while people were, left to fight about crumbs. And people are fed up and they're walking. And every time I see like, oh, we can't open because people are good. If you're not paying living wages, good. Stay closed. Stay
Mhm.
closed. And I'm just, there are so many things, like, oh, you can't get this. We should all be eating local anyway. We should all be
Mhm.
eating local to the absolute best of our ability. And
Yeah.
I know that, like, it all depends on your circumstance. Some people, they're able to grow their own food. Other people, I mean, I sure as hell can't do that. I live in an apartment in Southern California, but I have access to farmers market that I patronize to the best of my ability. We should all be living locally to the best of our abilities. And we should just, so these massive supply chains, all of this, we got to fight back against it the absolute best we can. And I think that COVID, it just pushed us towards that cliff that we were already heading off of. And now we're dangling outside of it. And we're like, well, we have a choice. We can either just straight up go off this thing, or we can make a turn and go in a better direction. And I sincerely hope we do the latter. Obviously, I think we all do. Will we? I can't say for sure, but I sure as hell hope we do. And I'm sure going to do everything that I can as an individual to try to make us make that choice, because there's no reason. We have two choices at the end of the day. We continue consuming ourselves to death, or we really restructure society so that we focus on human needs and being stewards to the earth. There's a word for what I just described. It's called eco-socialism. That is literally that's our only choice. Like, that's it. Like, there's no, look, I was walking around the other day and I was smelling smoke. I was thinking, oh, is someone having a cookout? No, I was smelling the fire from Santa Barbara,
Oh,
which is a little bit farther
God.
away. Fires are commonplace. One coast is flooding, the other is on fire, and there's a lot of shit going on in the middle too. There is no incremental option. There is no timid option. There are literally two choices, and we cannot continue capitalism. And by the way, it's not crony capitalism. It's not corporatism. It's capitalism. Stop putting these adjectives in front of it to polish this turd. It's freaking capitalism. Capitalism is the pursuit of profit and private ownership, and the people with the money make the rules. That's what it is. That's what it's always been. That's why the same thing has happened anytime it's been tried throughout human history. If capitalism was a car, it would break down every 2,800 miles. That is a lemon. That is definitionally what that is. It is an abortion of an economic system that needs to be abolished. There's no ethical way to do it. That's a bunch of hogwash. So we either do eco-socialism, we base our world around human needs and being stewards of the earth, or we're going bye-bye. The planet's not going anywhere. We are. And in 100,000 years, the planet will be fine again.
Mm-hmm. That is such a good point, a good way to look at it, an important way to look at it. I think people don't realize how capitalist things are, to the point where, getting certain, even fruit or whatever, like fruit could travel to 3 different countries before it reaches us. And so when you talk about like eating local and eco-socialism, etc., like, this is how screwed up things are. Like, why should a banana travel to 3 countries? Like, what?
I can show you the tree where I get my bananas. It's from a community garden in my neighborhood, which someone asked where I'm at. I live in San Pedro. But yeah. So yeah, no, that's one of those things. It's something we don't talk about enough. And I get it. It's not really the sexiest topic in the world. Like, let me tell you about my farmer's market. But but it is incredibly important. And I'm not saying that like I never go to a grocery store. Of course I do. But I really try. I don't buy much produce there because I get all my produce from my farmer's market. And it's not just better for the planet, it's better for me. Have you ever do this experiment? Buy a carrot from your farmer, then buy a carrot from the grocery store. Eat the carrot from your farmer, a delicious freaking carrot that they pick from the ground, and then eat a carrot-themed water container, which is what the carrots you get in the store. I don't even know what the hell those things are, but they're screwing us over. And you're going to be like, what the hell is this? What are they doing to our food? A bunch of bullshit in a lab. That's what they're doing. So yeah, eat local, and you don't have to be wealthy to eat local. There's more consumer-supported agriculture than people realize. You just have to know how to look for it, and you have to dig for it, no pun intended, because, again, powerful people don't want you to know about it. Powerful people want you to just go to Kroger or Walmart or wherever else, and I'm not saying you should avoid those things, but, I mean, I get it. Sometimes you don't have a choice. I understand that, but They don't want you to know what alternatives exist. They don't want you to know that. And if you did, and we all started, shopping that way, I'm not going to say that's going to solve all of our problems. Of course it won't, but it's going to enrich all of our lives.
I completely agree. Absolutely. Colin, if you could pop up the list of AP strikes, let's see just how many, and this is not even anywhere near a complete list, but this is the strikes page for the Associated Press, just to give us all an idea. So we have at the top here, Deere, so the John Deere Company. As we go down, the Film and TV Workers Union, which is slated to start Monday, and that's what Ron was talking about.
Yeah,
so,
the 18th.
Actually, so Ron, for those who don't live in Hollywoodland area, this is like all of the like stage hands and crew and all that. Correct me if I'm
No,
missing.
that's correct. I forget off the top of my head what it's IATSE, and it stands
That
for
sounds
Theatrical and Stage Employees, and or International Association of Theatrical Stage Employees, I think. But yeah, it's just all the stagehand, the set, the crew, all those workers. And there's a number of things going on here. I mean, first of all, they're asking for better pay. They're asking for, better shifts and breaks and stuff like that, which they shouldn't have to ask for. They should just have it. The other factor at play here that I think is a very noteworthy and interesting one. So back in the day, and for some of you who may be watching this and are very young, you might not even remember this. But I can tell you, and Jen, I'm sure, I think we're around the same age, so you probably remember
I
this
think we
too.
figured out that we are both born in 84.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
So we're the same age. So there was a time where Netflix was this kind of new idea, and people wondered, what the heck is it? I mean, I remember that, where I was just like, what? You get DVDs in the mail? What is this thing? Again, for you younger people, you can Google what a DVD is. But like, so Netflix was this new idea, and it didn't take long before they did start to produce some content. So in the industry, this was considered, I believe the term that they used was experimental media. And what this basically meant was this was something that didn't have the backing of a big cable company. This wasn't a big network production. So they expected people to take less money to do that, because they're like, this is an experimental thing. We don't even know if anyone's going to see this thing. So, our rates aren't as high as the big cable productions. We don't have their resources. So that was what was going on back in the day. Now, obviously, Hulu's not some small guy in the market anymore. Netflix is obviously not. They're right up there with the big cable networks now. They're big. They're huge. But they still try to pull that off. They still try to. We're experimental media. It's not 2004. We're not idiots. What are you trying to pull? But they still try to do that, even though they've grown to this. I mean, how powerful is Netflix? We know they're very powerful. They're just as powerful as any cable network, pretty much. So, but they still try to get people to take less, because they're like, well, we're experimental media, and it's like, no, you're not. We're not. Like, what do you go tell that to the local radio station that everyone listens to? Like, what are you trying to pull? It's 2021. So yeah, that's another big thing too. They're trying to end, nonsense like that the industry.
I didn't realize that. Wow.
That's one of the reasons why the rates have gotten lower, because when you see these productions, when they become the lay of the land, well, all of a sudden it's like everyone's going to take less, because they're going to be like, well, we're experimental media, so we're going to pay you less. And eventually the cable networks are like, well, there's so many projects paying people less. Let's see if we can get away with paying people less. And that's kind of how it goes. So that's what they're protesting. And yeah, I hope they get everything they ask for and then some. And if it goes down, I mean, look, your snacks aren't getting made. Your cereal's not getting made. Your entertainment's not going to be getting made. I mean, people have had enough, and they are fed up, and it's what we need. I mean, I know it's a scary idea. I know that a general strike is a very scary idea, and I know it's not an easy task, and we're all going to have our role to play. But what's an even scarier idea? Continuing with this status quo. That's absolutely a way scarier idea.
Absolutely. I'm gonna ask you more about your thoughts on a general strike. But Colin, if you can pop up the list of AP strikes, let's see just how like big this is getting. So we also have, by the way, the Film TV Workers Union, that's about 60,000 members, it says. So Kaiser Permanente faces strike votes, and that is 24,000 members. Nearly 150 group home workers go on strike in Connecticut. Seattle carpenters approve new contract after they striked, so that's encouraging. A Reno bus contractor, U.S. food workers, carpenters, Kellogg's. Let's see who else. Mercy Hospital in Buffalo. And by the way, Jordan and Colin are likely going to Buffalo next week.
Nice.
And also probably we're in the planning stages, but also probably Iowa or Illinois, where John Deere strikes are happening. So as we keep going down, let's see here. Again, more home workers. Mondelez. That's a snack thing connected to, what is that? Nabisco, I think. German. So, and it's also happening across the country. Oh, there's also Heaven Hill in Kentucky. There's also, you can click away from the AP, Colin. There's also the coal miners strikes. There's also, there's so many. The list is stacking up, and it seems once again catching. So, Ron, what do you think all this means for a general strike?
Well, I think all this definitely kind of feeds into a general strike. I mean, a general strike, I mean, because some people are speculating, like, well, if we have all these micro strikes, could we potentially avoid a general strike? I say that's the wrong way to look at it, because I think that a lot of these micro strikes, they're addressing, workers' rights on various levels with different companies, with different organizations, with different industries. And that is fantastic. A general strike, I think, goes a step further and makes overall societal demands. In a general strike, you really make demands like universal health care, like federal minimum wages, stuff like that. So I think that I am thrilled to see all these strikes, but I do think that a general strike is still of the utmost importance and 110% necessary. What all these strikes are helping us do is they're helping us get closer to cracking the code for a general strike, because it's going to take a lot of mutual aid. It's going to take a lot of cooperation. It's going to take a ton of planning, and it's going to take everybody. I mean, it is, we all have our roles, whether you're, a comedian who streams on YouTube, or an independent journalist, or you're a worker in a factory. We all have a role, and we all need to look out for each other. And we need to basically just shut down the major supply chains. A general strike doesn't literally mean that nobody is, quote, working. I mean, in a general strike, people like you, Jen, you're going to work even harder, probably.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to be the communication vehicles for this. And I want to be too. I'm here. Like, tell me how I can help. I mean, I'll freaking go tell jokes to the striking workers if I have to. I'll do whatever I can to help.
Actually, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Outdoors, it's tough, but yeah, I'll do whatever I can. But, so it doesn't literally mean nobody's working. It just means that, the system as a whole is shut down in a way where the oligarchs feel it in their pocketbooks. And you can do that on micro levels. And if you do it on a mass level, they're basically going to, I mean, if all the Jeff Bezos of the world are feeling it in their pocketbooks and they're saying these people aren't tolerating it anymore, they're not going to keep this going. Well, then basically government has to give. They have to give, and I mean, that's why we got a New Deal. We didn't get a New Deal because FDR was just like, I'm a nice guy. Here's a New Deal. FDR was a centrist. FDR had enough foresight that he saw a unified working class. And I'm not saying they agreed on everything. They didn't. They had their differences and they butted heads, much like today. But they all got along just enough. And this was the socialists, the communists, the anarchists, the labor unions, the working class, everybody. They got along just enough that the powers that be realized, oh shit, we got to do something or we're going to lose everything, because they're ticked off and they ain't taking it anymore. here's a new deal. So that's what needs to happen again.
I completely agree. And I think, we'll talk more about like electoral politics versus other things later on to kind of like loop back into this conversation. But I 100% believe that a general strike is what we need to make true changes, to show people that the workers, the working class of this country is serious. Now, there are, of course, some really scary steps to that. How do you strike if you have to feed your family? So mutual aid is going to come into play. And there are a lot of pieces to kind of figure out. And it's, but I have hope that regardless of the struggles, like people are struggling now anyway. So why not take this step and do what we can to push it to the next level? I mean, you mentioned Jeff Bezos, like you have William Shatner. I don't know if he paid or who paid, or if it was like a Jeff Bezos did it for publicity, whatever. But we do know that someone paid like $28,000 to go up into space, and then he had a scheduling conflict. This was prior to Shatner. He had a scheduling conflict, as one does when they spend $28 million. And so it was like the second place person sent his 18-year-old son up. And so you have people who can afford many, many millions of dollars to go up into space for less than, not even space, to the edge of space for less than 10 minutes.
Yeah,
so
and
you
what
have
a
people.
waste, what an obnoxious waste of resources. It's so bad for the climate. It's so bad for the environment. It's just a waste of time. It literally looks like a dick. It is. He's
It looks like a cock rocket.
Yeah, he's recreated Austin Powers and William Shatner. And isn't it something? William Shatner played the guy who was going through space trying to reach utopia and fighting the bad guys. That's the character he played. In real life, he goes to space with the bad guys. How is that a feel-good story? There's nothing feel-good about that.
It's so depressing. And like people I just can't imagine being a person with Jeff Bezos's wealth and not being like, all right, Flint, here's the money you need.
Yeah.
Like, low income folks, I'm setting up some aid for everyone in these like very really devastated areas. I can't imagine being a person of means and not doing what I can to help people instead of taking a cock rocket to space for literally no reason. Like people can argue against like NASA or whatever, and do we need to go to space, whatever, for exploration and scientific reasons.
Sure.
It's a completely different thing when it's just to go to the edge of space for no reason. That's
here's
stupid and pointless.
You can't imagine feeling that way because in reality, because you feel the way you do, you'll never have that amount of wealth.
It's
impossible.
Great point.
I mean, that's the thing. It is impossible to be a billionaire like without people either directly or indirectly getting screwed over. Like it's just impossible. It doesn't happen. Like billionaires shouldn't exist. Like they just shouldn't.
Yep.
And there's no exceptions. People try to bring up exceptions. They're like, Rob, what about Paul McCartney? I'm like, okay, you want to tell me the music industry didn't screw over a bunch of people? You want to tell I pretty much every blues artist with black skin, if they were properly compensated, Paul McCartney wouldn't be a billionaire. That's just a fact. I'm not saying that's Paul McCartney's fault as an individual. Of course, it's not. I'm not saying like that's systemic racism. That's on Paul McCartney. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I am saying he wouldn't be a billionaire. That's just a fact. So it's like we shouldn't have billionaires at all. And there's even people. I mean, there are wealthy people in the world who do have some sense of a moral obligation. I'm not saying it's not a thing. And that's why there are people out there. They have signed clauses that if they ever get close to that amount of wealth, they will just give it all away. Like they will literally not let themselves become billionaires because there's no reason why. And a lot of them are people in show business who, they've sold movies and they've done very well financially. And they're like, there's no reason why I should ever have that amount of wealth. So I'm going to make sure. And the reality for a lot of those people, they're never going to get close to it anyway, because they do actually do some charity. You know what I mean? Like they're not gonna, because you can't ethically make $1 billion. It's impossible. So
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think you're right. You saying like there's like I will never be that wealthy because I feel the way that I feel. And I think that is so striking and true. That makes a lot of sense. Like you kind of have to be a shitty person willing to step on folks to reach a Bezos level of wealth. Of course, that
Yeah,
makes complete sense.
he's screwed over a ton of people, and he continues to. I mean, he screws over everyone in his path. I mean, he went out of his way to avoid like $4,000, like a tax, like a $4,000 credit thing. He went out of his way to make sure he got that. I mean, he is. It's sociopathy at that point. Like it's like you are a sociopath. Like something is seriously wrong with you because you have more wealth than you could ever spend in countless lifetimes. Your kids will never need to worry. Their kids will never need to worry. You will never have to worry about anything. And yet you're still obsessed with acquiring more wealth as if you're like 10 days late on rent. It's freaking nuts. I mean, something is seriously wrong with you.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh.
And we celebrate this.
Right.
We're supposed to worship these people. It's like, no, these people should be under the care of a serious mental health professional. Like they should be under significant care where it's like, oh, wow, you did this. You acquired this much. Yeah, you realize you don't need this, right? Like, this is nuts. You realize that there's starving people in your neighborhood. You don't care? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, they need to be analyzed and studied. And I don't know. It's I just I literally cannot wrap my mind around it. Like being
It's
that
when
kind
you
of
really
human.
think about it, you can't. I mean, it's like the media just sugarcoats this stuff, so people just passively take it. But when you really think about what it actually means to be a billionaire, to be like, it's freaking nuts. It's not something to be celebrated. I mean, we're celebrating Nero here. Like we are freaking nuts as a society. And this is what happens when you have just this individualist experiment that has been taken to this grossly unhealthy level, this insanely destructive, unhealthy level. I mean, there's nothing wrong with kind of wanting to stick out from the herd. There's nothing wrong with the desire to create, with the desire to invent something, the desire to really put yourself out there. Those are all good things, and those are things that are associated with just being human and humankind. Like we have those innate desires as a species. But when you take it to this Ayn Randian gangbang, ludicrous, individualist fantasy, where it's just everything is just, you have no obligation to society whatsoever, and everything is just your freedoms, my gun, my blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's freaking nuts. And we have reached a level of absurdity that I don't think has ever really happened in this way in human history, really. I mean, it's freaking nuts. I mean, I ask people, it's like, what is the left-wing equivalent to what the contemporary United States is? Like, does that exist? I don't think it does.
No.
I honestly don't think it does. I mean, if it did, it would probably be like, I mean, it would be another thing just taken to its complete extreme. But like, I don't even think such a place exists. That's how extreme of a society we are.
Oh my gosh, so depressing. But before we pack it all in and like give up on it all and like form a commune cult or something, there is still hope in the world. There are still good people.
There is.
So Colin, let's switch topics and talk about this week-long climate action taking place in DC. So Colin, if you can get ready the first tweet that's on the list from Jamie Henn, the people versus fossil fuels. So to give people background on this, all week, starting from Monday all the way through to tomorrow, people have been taking to the streets in DC, just in various places, all to come together to fight against fossil fuels, to encourage or try to force Biden to take the climate crisis seriously, to literally call this a crisis, to call this an emergency, to declare a climate emergency. And specifically, there are Indigenous folks, as I mentioned at the top of the show, who've traveled from places like Minnesota, where they're fighting, and they're still fighting Line 3. It is not over, even though Enbridge has said that the oil is flowing. We apparently don't have confirmation of that, but even if that's the case, hope is not lost. So there are Indigenous protests, and allies are gathering, and it's really been incredible to see. I regret not being able to get down there myself, but we have plenty of reporting. People have been kind enough to share clips and things with us. So go ahead and pop up the tweet, and then we'll do the press release after that, Colin. So this is from Jamie Henn, and this is day 4 of the People versus Fossil Fuels, and they're really trying to get that hashtag going for folks in the audience. So just so you know, 130 more, from earlier in this week, arrested at the White House. 50 Indigenous leaders occupy Bureau of Indian Affairs. Demonstrators will march to the Capitol on Friday. So go ahead and show those images, and then we'll do the press release, Colin. The solidarity, I think, is really inspiring and important. It's great to see. So with this press release, 130 more arrested at the White House, 50 plus Indigenous leaders. It's the same as the tweet for the headline. So the press release says 530 people have been arrested for civil disobedience at the White House since demonstrations began on Monday. And let me give some context for those who haven't been to the White House lately. It used to be the case that there's like a black pointy fence. It's very tall, but it's not, to the sky tall in front of the White House. And you used to be able to go right up to that and kind of see what's going on or whatever. It's all the way across the lawn, but that's what you could do. In recent times, because of the Black Lives Matter protests when George Floyd was murdered, etc., it's been pushed back. Like, you can't get anywhere near the White House at this point. I'm not astonished, but I wish it were the case that I could be astonished that so many people have been arrested for protesting in front of the White House. Like, that is an American thing. There have been protests in front of the White House since it's existed. And for it to now, it's insane. So let me continue with this. Led by Indigenous youth, demonstrators will march to the Capitol tomorrow, so that's Friday, tomorrow, with a banner that reads, "Biden, we didn't vote for fossil fuels." Today's protests pushed back on the fossil fuels industry's false solutions like natural gas, which is not, is a real misnomer, blue hydrogen, carbon capture, and sequestration. So there are some photos here. It goes on to say 130 people were arrested for committing civil disobedience at the White House on Thursday, the 4th day of the People versus Fossil Fuels mobilization, which is pressuring President Biden to declare a climate emergency and stop approving fossil fuel projects. Just minutes after demonstrations ended at the White House, over 50 Indigenous activists, this is an addendum for me, who we literally stole Indigenous land, and we owe them so much. I'll continue on. Launched an occupation of the Bureau of Indian Affairs at the Department of Interior for the first time since a similar action took place in 1972. So indeed, this is historic. We will no longer allow the U.S. government to separate us from our relationship to the sacred knowledge of Mother Earth and all who depend on her, reads a statement released by the Indigenous leaders at the occupation. Her songs have no end, so we must continue the unfinished work of our ancestors who have walked on before us. The total arrests for the People versus Fossil Fuels Week. Again, this is not people who are doing it for their own benefit. These are people who are trying to literally save the earth, make it like keep it inhabitable for humans and for future generations. So the total arrests for these actions totals 530 people, with hundreds more taking part in marches and rallies each day. After checking with park police, organizers have updated numbers for each day for arrests this week. 155 on Monday, 155 on Tuesday, 90 on Wednesday, and 130 on Thursday. Tomorrow, People versus Fossil Fuels will head to the U.S. Capitol in a march led by Indigenous youth with a banner that reads, "Biden, we didn't vote for fossil fuels." Speakers will include youth leaders from Native Movement, Cheyenne River Grassroots Collective, Pueblo Action Alliance, Indigenous Environmental Network, Sunrise Movement, Power Shift Network, Zero Hour, and more. So if anyone's in this area, demonstrators will meet at Freedom Plaza at 8:30 a.m., which is a nice big, spot. Nice, big, and open, and march to the Capitol, organizing at Union Square at the end of the National Mall in front of the reflecting pool at 9:30 a.m. So I won't read this whole thing. I encourage you to do so. But also, Colin, if you can pop up the IENEA tweet. This one just shows that the kind of COP response to Indigenous folks and allies. It's just incredible. So as the outside support at the DOI building chanted and sang their support to the Indigenous leaders occupying the BIA, Metro Police created bicycle barricades and brought out their canine units to try to subdue the already peaceful assembly. And that is what the cops do, particularly in DC. They try to take peaceful actions and escalate them, which I know happens around the country. And then, Colin, the fight, the People versus Fossil Fuels clip. So this is the actual group that's organizing this next clip, and they were kind enough to give us permission to share their work, to share this clip of Indigenous people occupying during a sit-in in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So that's peaceful, right? That's an American kind of thing to do. You would think that that would all be just fine. It apparently was not, because then came arrests. And Colin, if you can, I don't know if you're looking at the list, Colin, but the next one, the Winona LaDuke one, that Winona LaDuke, for the audience, is someone who does fantastic work through Honor the Earth. You can find them on Facebook, but go ahead and play that clip, Colin. So that's more footage of them inside. And then the next one from Honor the Earth / Winona LaDuke. This is a statement that was put out. If we have that. This kind of gives some context to what they're doing and why. So you can see breaking Indigenous leaders are occupying the Bureau of Indian Affairs in DC for the first time since the 1970s. We told Joe Biden to expect us, and we aren't backing down, via Jennifer K. Falcon, EIN. And then you can see there's an image of the sit-in, but also this statement. We will no longer allow the U.S. government to separate us from our relationship to the sacred knowledge of Mother Earth and all who depend on her. Her songs have no end. So we must continue the unfinished work of our ancestors who have walked on before us. Because of colonization, our mission has been passed on generation after generation to protect the sacred. Just as those who walked before us, we continue their song and rise for our youth, for the land and for the water. Politicians do not take care of us. Presidents will break their promises, but Mother Earth has always given us what we need to thrive. We will not back down until our natural balance is restored. For the land, for our waters, for our future, we must fight now so our young will thrive. You can arrest us, tear gas us, poison us, but there will always be more hearts to continue the song until we are all free. Another world is possible. It continues on. Our demands for the President of the United States are abolition of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And again, that's where they were doing the sit-in before they started the arrests. Restoration of 110 million acres of land taken away from Native nations. Bring home our children buried at your residential schools. Restoration of treaty making, ended by Congress in 1871. Establishment of a treaty commission to make new treaties with sovereign Native nations. Land back, water back. Honor the treaties. No new leases for oil and gas or extractive industry on public lands. A policy of free, prior, and informed consent. Reclaim and affirm health, housing, employment, economic development, and education for all Indigenous people. Restoration of terminated rights. Repeal of state jurisdiction on Native Americans. Federal protection for offenses against Indians. And then as we continue on, unfortunately, this is very disturbing footage of Natives getting arrested. If you can pull up the Jennifer K. Falcon tweet, Colin. Yeah, so actually this is a photo, but you can see, is there a way for us to zoom in on that, Colin? The look on this Indigenous woman's face, you know, being arrested.
She looks very violent. I'm sure she was causing a ton of trouble, and
totally.
that arrest was totally necessary.
Absolutely necessary. Can't you see she's just so selfish and horrible, you know, fighting for water and land for other people.
Well, and Joey Peltier, I believe is how you say his name. He's up in Minnesota, and he's part of Honor of the Earth. He's been on my show before, and he DM'd me. I believe he got arrested on Monday, but he DM'd me on Twitter, you know, shortly after his arrest. I guess they didn't hold him for very long, and I didn't get a ton of details from him because he was kind of in the middle of a lot of stuff, but he did tell me like he's okay. So. And he said they're not going anywhere. So,
oh, that's really good to hear.
Yeah.
This is horrible. Colin, now if you can play the clip of activists arrested in the police van. This is from today. Some more Indigenous folks getting arrested, and they're actually in the back of the van.
What? The heat is on.
I can't feel my phone.
All right, we're live. All right. Hi, everyone that's watching. We're here right now. We're locked up. The heat is on in here. It's hot. You have a bunch of people on here. There's a female on the other side sending out her thumb. She can't feel her thumb. It's getting tingly. They even threatened to use excessive force to hurt someone to get them in here. A woman. So she's crying right now. She said she was getting excited. She's having anxiety because she can't feel her thumb. And it's numb right now. And the heat is on. They're trying to say they put the AC on, but the heat's on. It's hot in here. We're sliding around in here.
Bonjour. What's up? Yo. Come join us. It's not too late. Get out your motherfucking seats and hit the streets. We wish.
So what we did today is we went to the... You want to say something? Yell it over? We're live.
I just want to say that whoever's out there listening, stand up and show your support because there's a lot of people here that are going through a lot of bullshit to help everyone. And we need the unity of everyone. All of our allies, all of our other tribes and our ancestors to stay unified in this fight against climate change because the shit is serious.
Bewitch. What do we want?
Land back!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Land back!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Land back!
When do we want it?
Now!
We don't get it.
Shut it down!
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 Everyone is still freaking out in here. It's blowing hot air in this. And I don't know if you can see, we're really close together. It's so compact. I don't know what this is, but this ain't.
I'm dripping.
This ain't lawful, I swear to God.
It might be legal though.
You can pull out, Colin. Wow. The continued spirit of those folks who are in awful conditions in the back of that police vehicle. I think it's inspiring. It's also, it brings tears to my eyes. Why is this happening?
Well, it's so frustrating to see. I mean, even just going beyond these actions this week, to see. I mean, think about the younger generations who have spent their childhoods, just trying to fight to make sure that they have a planet to live on.
Yeah.
And, they're being told by, let's be honest, people who are going to be dead and gone before it gets really bad. They're being told by the likes of Dianne Feinstein and Joe Biden to just shut up.
Mhm.
And these indigenous people who are just asking for lay off the water supply. And by the way, it doesn't just affect the indigenous people who live there. I mean, these pipelines go over the water tables of like a huge portion of the nation's water supply.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys report on water issues a lot. So it's like, this is a serious, significant thing. And we have an administration that is doing pretty much nothing. We had an administration before that did worse than nothing because they made things. I mean, basically, it's like you see the same thing. You see Republicans make it way easier for oil and gas to do their thing. And then Democrats don't make it any more difficult and maybe do a few gestural things. And that's about it. I mean, you saw Biden. He did a couple gestural things. They got knocked down in court. Like, oh, well, I guess we're done here.
Right.
He did stop Keystone XL, which that was good. But again, I mean, that was like the bare minimum. Everyone's looking at him. He didn't have a choice. And Justin Trudeau's trying to talk him out of that, and he'll probably succeed at some point. So, I mean, you really... I take a little bit of solace in knowing that climate change is an issue that we are facing as one world, because other parts of the world are moving forward. And if we keep protesting and we keep striking and we keep, just getting out in the streets, eventually the U.S. is going to have to go along with other places in the world that are actually doing something. The Denmarks of the world, the Norways of the world. I mean, even China is doing more than we are. I mean, China's a big polluter. That's why I say even China, because they are a big polluter. But they're at least like making these legit green efforts compared to us. I mean, we're doing nothing.
Yeah.
And we are the biggest polluter in the world because we're running the war machine, which is the biggest polluter in the freaking world.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's really discouraging to see, but it's encouraging that there are so many people who are just saying we're not going to take this anymore. And it's been going on around the world. I mean, simultaneously, while this was going on out in the UK, they erected a statue of Boris Johnson covered in oil because of some drilling he wants to do. So,
Yeah, and we see this. I find these protests inspiring because it means that people care and people are willing to put themselves at risk to do something. I'm curious though, Ron, there are some who are now of the mind that protests don't work, protests don't matter, that, it has to be something else. I don't know what are your thoughts on that?
well, I think if you're saying it has to be something else, what is that something else, and why does it only have to be one thing? I
Yes.
think I think there's an entire toolkit for change, and I think protest is one of those tools. Is protest the only tool? No, of course not. But it's one of those tools, and it's a pretty sharp one as far as I'm concerned. Another one of those tools is strikes. Another one of those tools that I think we spend too much time talking about is electoralism. Another one of those tools are cause-based initiatives. Another one of those tools are communication vehicles. Another one of those tools, I mean, they're all tools in a good way, the good kind of tool, not the they're tools.
Right.
But they're all tools in the toolkit of change. I don't really see what's productive in trying to pit them against each other or trying to say like one is better or worse than the other. I don't really see what's productive about that. I will point out the fact that we hype electoralism too much, in my opinion, and I'm guilty of that myself. So I will say that, but I don't say that as a means to completely discount electoralism. I say that to say there's other things that are very important too that often go overlooked, and that's a problem.
I completely agree. And that's my sort of take too, that protests are important for, it serves its purpose. It's not going to solve everything. We saw that with the George Floyd protests. Unfortunately, it died off after a while. Unfortunately, areas that said and politicians that said, oh, we're going to totally do something about this, about police brutality against Black people, that fell flat once the public pressure was gone. But it still was a moment where it kind of woke people up. It can't, in my opinion, be the only thing, though.
Well, and I think that people kind of also overlooked, and it's easy to overlook this when you see, the guy who wrote the crime bill, not do anything about anything and say, well, maybe they could shoot people in the leg. Did we fix it? I'm tired. I need a nap. It's easy to get discouraged when you see that. But one thing I think people have overlooked, there have been results on local and city levels where actions have been taken towards defunding the police. Actions have been taken. A lot of mayors lost their gigs because people are like, we're not going to take this anymore. This is not going to be tolerated. I used to live in Pasadena, California. They got that mayor out of there. My hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that mayor did not win re-election. And a big reason why he didn't was because of his actions during the George Floyd's protests, the way he allowed cops to kettle protesters and stuff like that. They say he tried to, wash his hands of it and say he wasn't responsible. People were like, you're the freaking mayor. The buck stops with you. You're getting out of here. So, I know that there's still a ton of work to be done, but these protests did see some results. They certainly did. And, here in Los Angeles, we're in a very weird place right now. I mean, I know New York City, they took a step backwards. I mean, I'm pretty sure their next mayor is going to be a cop, right? Like, wasn't it a cop who won or something? or it's in the running or whatever.
It's not
but here in Los Angeles, I mean, our mayor, like we are going to replace him. I don't know what we're going to replace him with. But he is not sitting pretty. I mean, the city despises him. People, they interrupt him at dinner and stuff like that. So I'd like to think that locally, it's like we are seeing some results here, and it has been slow, and we need to see a lot more. And by the way, reform is not enough. Maybe reform was possible 40 freaking years ago. Reform is not enough. We need to defund. We need to defund, and we need to explain to people what that means.
Yeah.
Defunding the police doesn't mean there's no law enforcement anymore. That's not what
Right.
it means. It means all those tanks and rubber bullets that they use to commit war crimes against American citizens, that goes bye-bye. That's what it means. And I think we got to go a step further, and we got to abolish what it means. Like, I think we need to straight up abolish the police. And again, you have to specify what that means. Abolish the police doesn't mean no law enforcement. Abolish the police means there's no reason why a police officer, as we know it, should exist. I mean, think about what that job entails. Think about all the responsibilities you have. You are undertrained. You are underscreened. You're expected to handle all these situations, and you have a badge and a gun and a license to kill. What could possibly go wrong? Pretty much freaking everything. Pretty much everything. I mean, the training is a joke at best. They don't screen these people. The police have been infiltrated by white supremacist groups for decades. It was a coordinated effort David Duke was part of it. They put on suits and they infiltrated law enforcement. Anonymous revealed that to us in 2014. Nothing's happened since. And it has continued. Just Google LSD gangs. Do it. Do it right now. It's happening. It continues to happen. So, yeah, you can't reform this. You got to come up with something different. And by the way, just for the record, people are like, well, what would you do? I wrote an article on what I would do. You can go to my Substack. I actually wrote a piece on what I would do. So everyone's like, you can play, but you don't have any solutions. I actually do have a solution. You could read my solution. I'm not saying mine's perfect. But I did
What
come
is
up
your
with
Substack address? Tell
it's
the
just
people.
romplacone.substack.com.
I want to read this now. I didn't
check
know
it out.
about this.
It's my plan on what we would do to have a new idea of policing in our world. And
very interesting. Yeah, it's so frustrating because I think that people don't fully understand what's going on or what things could look like, or don't fully understand the reasons. And something that strikes me is, for example, yesterday I covered a father a right-wing father who was anti, critical race theory, and he was
that what his Chiron said? It was just like right-wing father, and then this guy in a MAGA hat. Like, let me tell you something,
my
Jen.
Chiron would be for him. Yeah. So he was not leaving the school board meeting when it was shut down, and railing against transgender students, etc. So he was arrested. He was taken down by police, and he was, he was upset at the police, but he said, "Oh, we fully support them." And then there was another instance where the mother of Ashley Babbitt, Ford Fisher, the video journalist, actually captured this interview with Ashley Babbitt's mother, and she said, the DC police need to be reformed. And then she is like, but I like police in general, just them. That's obviously a paraphrase, but it's like, until something happens,
you should travel
to
more if you feel that way.
Right, exactly. So it's like people understand it kind of, depending on their cognitive dissonance, when something happens to them, when police mistreat them or their family members or whatever, but they don't understand it on like a wider level. Like, okay, so you feel like your daughter was, murdered wrongly by this DC police officer, but what about, like, doesn't that inspire you to care about everybody else like who's being mistreated by police? So I find it interesting, this conversation around police specifically, and who cares and who doesn't, and what they think and how they justify things in their mind.
People don't talk about it like it's a systemic problem, and it
Yeah.
is. Instead, people try to deflect and they say, well, a couple bad apples. It's like, no, that's not what it is. It's not. It's a systemic issue. It is a systemic disease. Saying it's a couple bad apples, it's like there's an E. coli outbreak and all of our lettuce is contaminated and someone takes a shred and like, this one's good, I'm going to eat it. That's not how it works. That's not how it freaking works. It's a systemic problem. It needs a systemic solution. And hey, these supposed good cops, I don't know where they're at, but if they're out there, they don't have anything to worry about. They don't have anything to worry about. If you make a systemic change and there's actually people out there who actually want to serve and protect and do the job, they don't have anything to worry about. They'll keep their gig. It's the ones that don't that should worry about their gig. And if everyone's worried about their gig, well, what is that telling you? What is that telling you?
A great point. Let's pivot. I don't have a good segue, but let's pivot to electoralism quickly.
All right.
So Colin, if you can pop up the screenshots of AOC's announcement. So 1 second, my friends. 1 little second here. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez plans a town hall tomorrow. So here's what is up. Friday, joint town hall with representatives and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jared Huffman. So this is a media release, just so everyone knows. That's why it references media stuff. So on Friday, October 15th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jared Huffman will be holding a virtual town hall. During the event, the Congress members will discuss the ongoing negotiations around the reconciliation package and infrastructure bill. Both Representative Huffman and Representative Ocasio-Cortez are members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, as if that matters, as if that means anything. So it goes on to say constituents are encouraged to ask questions via Zoom for a chance to have their questions read aloud and answered live, on and on. It tells you, if you are indeed a constituent, how to get your question in and how to watch. So event details, virtual town hall with those reps, again, focusing on the reconciliation package and infrastructure bill. And yet again, that is at 5:30 tomorrow. So all that is to say, Ron, what are your thoughts in general? First of all, let's start more broadly on what's happening with progressives or so-called progressives surrounding this reconciliation bill.
Well, it's been very cringe to watch. I mean, this reconciliation bill is already a compromise of a compromise of a compromise. It might get compromised even further. People are grossly misled about what's really going on. The $1 trillion package, the quote bipartisan package, which by bipartisan, they mean Republicans along with gems like Manchin and Sinema. That's what they mean. And Pete Buttigieg. That's what they mean by quote bipartisan. So there's a ton of poison pills in that trillion $1 trillion bill. I mean, they're looking into privatizing our roads, charging people a per mileage fee. That would be a freaking disaster, especially as a Tory performer. I mean, that would completely change my life and not for the better. So there are a lot of poison pills in that $1 trillion bill, and it has nothing to do. It's not a smaller version of the spending bill. The spending bill is something entirely different. There's some okay things in that spending bill that they're currently trying to gut. I mean, they have another proposal where it basically takes out, the free community college. They're taking that out. They're taking all these other things out, and it's going to be even less. And keep in mind, this is over the course of 10 years. They spent, what was it, 8 trillion, something like that, on the Pentagon or whatever it was. And meanwhile,
it was 7 something.
It was 7 something. Yeah. They're fighting over 3.5 over 10 years.
Yeah.
For a spending bill that we desperately need, for climate action that we desperately need. So, I mean, it's been very painful to watch. And it's also been very painful to watching, the squad not vote as a block, watching them not use the leverage they do have. I mean, it has been very, very frustrating to see. And I think as constituents, we need to be out there and we need to put the pressure on because, everyone people love to say like, oh, why would you be hard on the squad? They tweet nice things. It's like, well, they're supposed to be our allies. And they're not using what power they do have. We all know that they're outnumbered. No one's disputing that. People are just asking them to use the leverage they do have, and they're not doing it. And it'd be one thing if it'd be one thing if it was mixed, where every now and again it's like, well, a couple people didn't vote this way, so we didn't get this. But there's all these other things. It's always one way, though. It's always, well, they didn't do this, so we didn't get this. They didn't do this, so the Capitol Police got more funding. They didn't do this, so the Iron Dome's going to happen. It's always one way. And so now it becomes very frustrating. And you know what I always say? I want to be the squad's excuse. That's what I want to be. And what I mean by that is I want to be the person who's out there who's saying, I want them to go, hey, Mama Bear, I know that you don't really like our ideas, but you see those people out there? Those are the people who got us elected. And their support for us is not unconditional. They are policy first. And that's what I am. I am policy first. I don't give two shits about anyone's Twitch stream. I don't give two shits about it. I don't follow any politicians on Twitter. None of them. I follow nobody. That is deliberate. And sometimes if I get really annoyed, I freaking mute them. That's deliberate. I don't think any politician should have any followers on Twitter. They should all have a 0 follower count, and every tweet they issue should be ratioed by people going, and what the hell are you doing about it? That's the way it should be. They report to us. They're not heroes. They're not celebrities. They're actually part of a horrific garbage system that shouldn't exist and should have been abolished yesterday. But we need them for change. So we have to tolerate them, and we have to pressure them to do what we want. And in my lifetime, for as long as I've been on this planet, the only time a politician has done anything remotely good is when they're scared of losing their job. So people need to be scared that they're going to lose their job if they don't deliver on the policies that we are demanding, because we are freaking policy first. Now, the only politicians I do kind of follow, just to make it very clear, are people at the local level. There are some local level people I follow. I treat that a little differently. Sure. I'm talking federal and state right now. But that's my take on electoralism. I am not a fan. Everyone says it's an inside-outside approach, so I always say outside, baby. I'm part of the outside. That's the only place I belong. That's the only place I want to be. I don't want to be on that other side of the fence. I have no respect for it whatsoever. That's why when people ask me, oh, would you ever run for office? No, you have to have some respect for our system, and I have zero. I couldn't run for office. I couldn't be colleagues with these people. It takes a different type of person. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that person. In fact, we need those people. I'm just saying it ain't me. Not now. Not ever.
I agree a lot on a lot of those things, including that politicians should be ratioed to hell, that they need to be constantly pressured. It's, I think, unfortunate in many ways that politics has become so social mediaized, especially when it comes to AOC, etc. It's like, I can tell you have something to say. Go ahead. You were...
Oh, no. I was just going to add, like, when you said the whole social media thing, it's bizarre. I mean, you go to other countries, and I'm not saying anywhere is perfect, but it is bizarre to them the way we just worship these. Like, it's weird. It's not even it's bizarre. And I don't mean to disrespect the dead at all, but it's bizarre the way we worship judges. I mean, our RBG, that's just, it's strange. I mean, and I have personal friends of mine. They were RBG for Halloween, and I wasn't like Buzzkill Magoo on Halloween. I wasn't like, did you know that this is bizarre to the rest of the world? Like, it wasn't the time or place. I'm just looking to have a good time. But it's strange. It's strange, the pedestal we put these people on, and especially when they do the freaking least. They do the absolute least. We have a complete corporate coup for a government. That's not AOC's fault as an individual. Of course not. That's ludicrous. But you got to be aware of the freaking system she's a part of. Right. And you got to demand that they fight against it, because that's what they said they were going to do. That's what they said they were going to freaking do.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I just don't. And in other countries, I mean, in France, if their politicians make them mad, they literally cover their house with shit. That's what
Yeah,
they do. So
they got
you
it
think
down.
people are being too hard when they yell into a webcam or they talk on YouTube shows? In France, where they have a way better quality of life than we do, way, 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 way better, they will cover their politician's house with shit if they tick them off. So, you know, yeah, I think that covers electoralism for me. I don't know what else.
I do have some more questions, but I will
I'm a
say
huge fan.
clearly you love it. No. Yeah, so it's difficult, I think, because politicians are not our friends. Never, ever. They're never our friends. They always need to be pressed. So that Bernie, let me try to point to it, that Bernie picture. So my husband painted that for me, actually. And it's not about like, oh my God, I love Bernie, which I'm very clear. Like I think Bernie lost his mind in the last election. I think he should have fought a hell of a lot harder.
I
agree.
agree.
He's not going strong enough, but he, for me, it's like this symbolism. So Bernie, I feel, woke me up personally, woke up a lot of people, and he's moved the Overton window on Medicare for All, etc. But it can never be like, oh, I like Bernie, so he's above criticism. He's not. No one is. He needs to be pressed. And the same has to be said for AOC, and the same has to be said for literally all electeds.
Well,
everyone,
all of the people who say allies. I mean, a lot of people single out AOC just because she is the biggest presence.
right?
But the entire squad. I mean, on the Iron Dome, it's like, yeah, she voted present, which was terrible. Don't get me wrong, but some of them voted yes. That's even freaking worse. So it's like, I mean, they're all at fault here, and yeah, I mean, Bernie has done some things that have pissed me off to no end.
Yeah.
So bad. But Bernie also, in 2016, because he was in the right place at the right time, he showed me and you and a lot of people watching right now that we're not as alone as we thought we were.
Yeah.
Being the lefty in the United States, it's like living in Nebraska and being a surfer. And the only way you can get to the ocean is by walking. And in many ways, that's still the case. But you know what I found out? There's more people that want to take that walk with me than I realized.
Yeah.
And that's freaking encouraging. That feels freaking good. We do have Bernie to thank for that. And I'll always be thankful for that.
Sure.
He's pissed me off a lot. He certainly pissed me off a lot, and I will never shy away when he says when he does something that is worthy of criticism. But I'll always be thankful for that. I'll never not be thankful for that, and I'll always appreciate that. And when I think about people in the electoral realm who have at least tried to do better, I mean, of course, Bernie is among them, and he's on a very small list, unfortunately.
Yeah, incredibly small.
Yeah.
And one question I have for you, did you always feel the way that you feel right now about electoralism, about the importance of electoral politics, et cetera? Or has that kind of evolved as we've seen the failure, to put it bluntly, of progressive politicians?
It's evolved. I mean, I was never like, oh, electoralism is totally my bag. I always was more like strikes. And, I was always also into like cause-based initiatives. So, like, I was really into municipal broadband and digital rights and net neutrality. I still am. And as a citizen, I mean, I've been part of campaigns for net neutrality that I would argue were pretty successful. I was on a campaign to ban facial recognition software that was pretty successful. I also did what I could for Bernie, and look at how that ended. When you campaign for a politician, you're kind of in some ways at their whim. And so when Bernie decided to kind of only touch Biden with soft gloves, that sounded weird, but you guys know what I meant. I couldn't do anything about that. When Bernie decided,
or exciting.
yeah, right. And so so when you put all your eggs in the electoralism basket, like, well, you're kind of at the whim of a politician. When you put it in a cause, I mean, really, it's like it's all about the cause. And I just prefer that by a lot. I'm not saying that nobody should participate in electoralism. It takes all kinds. And some people, they're really meant for that. That's great, because that ain't me. I'm not one of those people. I'll interview some of them. That's fine. But that's about the extent of it. So I would say my enthusiasm for electoralism was always low. And over the past 5 years, it has gotten even lower. Which I feel like if I had to assign a number, I was at about a 2%, which is, you know, that it might have been 1.5 out of 1,000. And now,
Oh God,
it's
very low.
now it's a negative number now. It's just like, well, it's necessary, unfortunately, but it is necessary, and I recognize that. You know, I'm not ignorant to the fact that it is necessary, but I think it's only going to be as useful as the movement behind it. And even during the primary, when we were still hoping Bernie was going to, you know, be able to pull a miracle. I mean, I was even saying it then. I'm like, look, Bernie, if he gets elected president, if we somehow pull this off, he is going to be fighting against the Senate, the House, the media, and every oligarch. That's just the truth. He's not going to get everything he wants, but he's going to get something.
I have to say, I feel like he would no longer be with us should he have been elected.
I mean, geez.
I'm
serious.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I feel you. I feel you. And I think that, I mean, I was saying from the get-go, it's like we have to put him in the situation to be the FDR, where it's like, you know, because he's an FDR that actually cares about some of those policies. And I think he would have been that kind of presidency. I think he would have been like, look at them, you know, like look, we got it. This is what we got to do. We don't have a choice. You know, it's like rich people, you either give a little bit or you give everything. Your freaking choice. And I think that's the type of presidency we would have had with Bernie. I do think, again, as much as he has ticked me off, I do think that if he would be in the White House, or if he would have been in the White House, we would have had a transformational presidency that we haven't seen in about, you know, almost 100 years.
For sure. What are your thoughts on harm reduction? So some people say like, oh, don't you feel, I have no idea how you voted or if you voted, whatever. But Jordan and I were open that we were so like, oh my God, no, we can't do another Trump presidency, not for us, but for other people. Like, oh, like the marginalized people who are suffering cannot have another Trump presidency. So harm reduction is important. So Biden is horrible and has to be fought from day one. Awful, terrible, but it reduces harm that he's in office versus Trump. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I kind of see how like that's a microwave people can look at it. But the problem I see, I mean, first of all, I don't blame voters. I blame systems.
Sure, of course.
So I'm not one. I mean, I did not vote for Joe Biden, but I didn't go around shaming people who did. And I even got into it with other third party voters because, you know, when people get on this like pedestal where they're like, well, I sleep easy knowing that I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I'm just kind of like, he's president, though. You sleep easy. I mean, I got into it with this person on Twitter where they're just like, well, you should be proud. You didn't. I'm like, why would I mean, yeah, I voted third party and I'm glad I did. But why would I feel good knowing that, you know, one right wing demented rapist or another right wing demented rapist was going to be president? Why would I feel good about that? And why would I blame the people who are having to deal with this corrupt system? Why would I blame my fellow citizens for this horrible situation? Like, why would I? Well, you did and I'm like, okay, so I guess your message to third parties is it's not about winning. It's just about letting me feel good every 4 years. It's not, we don't want to win. We just want to feel good when we go into a voting booth every 4 years. Well, guess what? I didn't feel good no matter what, because I knew Trump or Biden was going to win.
Right.
How do you feel good about that? And if you felt good about that because you pulled the lever for someone else, which I did too, but if that made you feel good, then that's a weird way of saying I don't give a shit about anyone except for myself. That's a weird way of saying that. And again, I'm not saying, I mean, you know, I voted third party and I'm glad I did, but I'm not one of these people who blames voters instead of the system. I blame the frickin' system. Now, the problem I have with like, I don't know if it's a problem with harm reduction or a theory or whatever, but I see us as being a ping pong ball in a volley between neoliberalism and neo-fascism. The Republicans are the GOP is just a neo-fascist idea. It just is. And if you think it's not, fucking help yourself to a dictionary and read what those words really mean, because that is just definitionally what it is. It is neo-fascism. The Democrats are a neoliberal, which basically means they're not as blunt as the neo-fascists, where they're like, let's just let the corporations do it. But they're against any type of protections that will stop that from happening. What does that mean? Neoliberalism leads to neo-fascism 100% of the time, and vice versa. So we're in a big freaking ping pong volley where we're getting hit, and we're the ball getting hit between the neoliberal and the neo-fascism. And guess what? They're not trying to beat each other. They're just trying to keep the volley going because it keeps the system going. And that's the system. So I'm interested in breaking the system. My least favorite conversations is every 4 years when people just jerk each other off about lesser evil this, lesser, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I get emails from both. I mean, I get emails from all sides. I get emails from people like, well, technically, Ron, Trump is the lesser evil because technically Ron Biden is the lesser evil because and I have the same response to those people. I say, you're not trying to convince me. You're trying to convince yourself. Do what you're going to do in the voting booth. My issue is, this is what the system is. It's a neoliberal to neo-fascism volley, and that volley needs to frickin' break. I'm interested in throwing over the table the way Jesus did the only time he ever got mad, which is at capitalists. That's the only time he ever got mad.
Overturn the capitalist table.
Take it from this atheist. Only time he ever got mad.
Oh my gosh, that's incredibly true. He overturned the tables. I was raised in like this, now I view it as kind of like a cult of Christianity.
Oh, I went to a Catholic school, and it was an experience. All right. It was interesting.
Very, very, very enlightening now, compared to where we are now, politically and ethically, I think. I do like, I don't know if you sensed it. I'm sure you have, but it seems like there's this growing sense of nihilism among many in the left, or like many who were potentially like inspired by the Bernie and the progressive movement in 2016, 2020 are now nihilistic. They want to burn it all down. They potentially want to sabotage. I'm really, honestly, personally, I'm disturbed by it and kind of upset by it, where it's like, come on, guys, we were all in this for, hashtag not me, us, which I don't view as a Bernie associated hashtag. It encompasses progressivism for me, or socialism. I feel like some folks still call themselves leftists potentially, but really just want to burn it all down and not and see no hope really, and try to bring others down too.
Well, I don't engage in as many Twitter battles as you do, Jen. I do know that you do. I'm like, Jen, let's. I mean, sometimes I see you on there, and I'm like, Jen, what are you doing? Why don't we? Now that I know about the new addition to your household, I'm gonna be like, Jen, let's just Zoom with our cats.
Let's just Zoom the cat and and not fight.
Yeah,
I feel like I get really upset because it's like, what are you doing? We're supposed to be all fighting for each other. What are you doing?
Well, here's the thing. I think that, lefty ideas in the United States on the big scale have been losing for literally 100 years. We have a 0 and I've lost count track record. I mean, it's rough. It's very rough. Yeah. And I feel like sometimes people who agree on 95% of things and have some strategic differences, which is okay, we're going to have that. But people who agree on 95% of things are tearing down each other over that 5%. Instead of trying to get the other 90% of the country on board with them. And that it's a bummer. It's a total bummer. But when you've been losing for 100 years, sometimes whether you mean it to or not, it becomes less about winning and actually getting change and more about just wanting to be right,
Yeah.
because those are the only victories you can have. And it's a sad thing to see. And I do kind of see that. And there are some personalities out there that, I mean, even I myself, I'm not going to name names, but there are some personalities out there um who I find incredibly off-putting. I find them unpleasant. I wouldn't want to have a drink with them at a bar. I am very confused why anybody finds their shows appealing. But hey, what the fuck do I know? There's
I have
plenty of
some ideas.
people. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, hey, there's plenty of people who don't find my show appealing. So who knows? I mean, who am I? I mean, I don't, there's plenty. I don't understand you too. I just don't get it, and I never will. So what do I know? But I think that at the end of the day, you have to also take a step back and realize, all right, it's only been 5 years since a bunch of us realized, oh shit, we're not the only person in our neighborhood who feels this way. It's only
Yeah.
been that way for 5 years.
Right.
And also for 2 of those years, we've had a freaking pandemic that has kept everyone pretty occupied. So
Yeah.
when you look at that from like a wider lens, it kind of makes sense that a lot of us are looking around going, what the hell do we do now? I don't have the perfect answer for that, but I think we all need to start in our communities. I think that'll
Mm.
really help. And yeah, I think nihilism might be a bit harsh to
Okay.
say, because I think a
Mhm.
lot of people, they do have something they put on a pedestal. They do have some kind of hope in something. And for some people, it might be certain elected officials. For other people, it might be, a certain cause or a certain personality or whatever. So I don't think they're nihilistic. I think maybe they're just very hyper focused in a way that can at times be counterproductive. And I'm not saying I'm never guilty of that myself. Of course I am. Of course you are. We all are. None of us are
Sure.
perfect.
Mhm.
But I think it would be helpful if we kind of took a step back and realized, look, we're just sort of, we only knew this for like 5 years. We
Yeah.
got a lot. I mean, we got to figure this shit out, and we're never going to agree on everything. They didn't back in the day. They didn't agree on everything. I mean, they
Sure.
all had their differences. The Gene Debs of the world, the Lucy Parsons of the world, the Emma Goldmans they all had their differences. They didn't agree on everything, but they were focused enough to really get some change going. So I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it is true. I can't let myself get too wrapped up in the idea that, oh, hey guys, what are you doing? Like, come back. We're supposed to be all working together, right? Like, come on, let's do this. Because it always has to be okay for people to have different ideas of the way to do things. Discourse is important, and everybody has a role in this movement, and that has to be okay. Some of the things, getting, to be very transparent, like getting wrapped up in YouTube, comments on our YouTube videos here or on Twitter or whatever, where it's like, oh, you didn't agree with me on this, literally this one point, so I'm canceling my membership or I'm unsubscribing. And it's like, why are we in this place? Why are we so ready to ship everyone off who doesn't 100% agree with us? Where's the discourse allowed to be? And I think it's probably the fact that people are really disenfranchised. People are really discouraged.
Yeah, well, and people also live like one. I mean, people live in like a one soundbite at a time world, and it's really weird to see where it's like, if somebody says one thing that you disagree with, all of a sudden you're supposed to just like, oh well, you're canceled now. That
Mm-hmm.
makes no sense. I mean, I'm honestly, I'm not that way. And
Yeah.
I know that it's like, I feel like at times I'm committing a thought crime for not being that way, where it's just like this person, like there are people out there, journalists, etc., where I have seen some takes from them where I'm like, I 100% disagree with what you just tweeted. I 100% disagree, but I still respect your body of work. You've still done a lot of valuable things. I still, value your perspective.
Sure.
I can disagree and still kind of like value a body of work as a whole and just kind of make my own judgments as a human. I mean, I get email, like people are like, Ron, I disagree with you on this, this, and this. I'm like, that's cool. Fine. Fuck. I mean, if you lined up everything I've said over the past 5 years, there's shit that I disagree with now because people change and their ideas evolve and you respond to the world around you, which again is like another thing. People try to use that against you like that's a bad thing. Like, well, 4 years ago you said, and now, and it's like, yeah, because nothing changed in 4 years. Absolutely nothing changed. So nobody should have a different idea than they had 4 years ago. We should all think exactly the same because nothing changes around us, apparently.
That's the thing too. Like I wasn't on air 4 years ago. Jordan actually had to drag me kicking and screaming to be on air because I'm actually really shy. But he points to stuff that he said, even in TYT debates and when he was back with TYT, and he's like, yeah, I don't agree with myself from back then. And it has to be okay for people to grow or for people to react to new information. And I think literally all of us are in a different place than we were 4 or 5 years ago because the world has changed. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, how can you not be? If you're not, like, what planet were you living on? Like how did you, we just went through a pandemic that happens. Well, we're still going through it, but we're in a pandemic. Those things happen like once a century, hopefully. And I'm not changed at all. How are you not? The people in 1918, they were changed a lot. And so are we.
Absolutely. 100%. We've been going for a really long time. I did want to get to the Facebook and the oil spill, but if you're pressed for time, we won't.
And we'll just go to your pressed. Yeah.
Sure. So let's just go to your trailer for sure. 100%. Guys, I am so excited about Ron's upcoming movie. He's fundraising for it. So let's why don't you do like a little intro and then we'll do the trailer. Colin,
sure. So I released a trailer, like a trailer of a movie that I'm trying to make. And the premise of the movie, if you guys recall, there was that issue that happened with GameStop and the Robinhood app where they all bought these shares of a video game store to drive the price up. And it screwed over a bunch of Wall Street hedgers that were trying to short sell it. A short sell is basically when you borrow a stock for a certain price and then you sell it right away. So you make all that money. And what you're doing is you're betting on the stock to go down because you want it to go down. So then when you go to pay up, it's not worth as much as what you borrowed it for. So it'd be like, I borrow a stock for $10, sell it right away. I just made $10. I'm hoping it goes down so that maybe it's $1 or something. And I'm like, well, time for me to pay up. Here's my $1. And I made $9. That's what it is. Because Wall Street, the big wigs at Wall Street just treat our entire world like a casino. So a bunch of people bought that stock because they got word that people were going to do it. They were going to short sell it. So they bought the stock. It drove the price up. So then when they had to pay up, it was worth more than what they got it for. So I wrote a fictional movie loosely based on that. Again, it's not it's not a documentary. It's not a historical thing. It is fiction. But the premise of it is a struggling writer in Hollywood is tired of being pushed around by his Wall Street brother and tired of being talked down to by his Wall Street brother. So he gets wind that his brother's trying to short sell a video game store. We changed the name of the store. We call it Game Bites. But they're trying to short sell a video game store. So the writer brother goes and orchestrates this big effort online, kind of like what they did on Reddit. And he orchestrates this big effort online to screw over his Hollywood brother. And again, it's loosely based on what really happened with the GameStop thing. And I play the struggling writer brother, And my brother is played by Gareth Reynolds, who, if you listen to the Dollop podcast, you know Gareth, very, very funny guy.
Oh, yeah.
And Gareth plays my brother. And yeah, there's a lot of other cool folks who you may know that I'm trying to get involved with it. And another thing I'll mention now before you play the trailer is there's a scene in the movie where we're actually going to need basically fake news clips. And what we want to do for that is we want actual YouTube channels to make fake news clips.
That's
for
so
us.
cool.
So yeah, so hopefully Status Coup will make a news clip and all, you know, so we're going to have like a big collage because it's like the main character finds out some news, you know, I don't want to give anything away, but like we're going to have these fake news clips and they're going to be actual YouTube channels. So it's kind of like a blending of all of my worlds. Like it's a blending of the comedy world. It's a blending of the film world. It's a blending of the YouTube content world, all in this one project. And it'll be a kind of cool thing because it's like we're hoping to take it to film festivals and screen it all over the freaking world, hopefully. So this will be like a bunch of shows will be on like the big screen. So
I'm so excited. I need you to send me the script after this. That's so exciting. I want to read it.
Will do.
Very cool. Colin, pop up that trailer.
I'm gonna propose. Shut up. God, I hope Sarah says yes, man. That would be shocking. Well, the whole thing's been shocking. As an outsider, like the first time I saw you with her, I was like, you know what I mean? You look like you want a reality show. And she's, you know, I'm happy because I didn't think there was any way this would last this long. Thanks.
I'm a writer. My more successful brother, he's on Wall Street. I don't know how it happened.
So, how is Dawn?
He's done.
It's Tiffany. They want to meet up tonight. Dawn has some exciting news.
Tell him to send the cliff notes to whogivesashit@gmail.
John, come on. He's your brother.
Not my call.
You wouldn't understand. The whole thing with Wall Street, John, is how complicated it is, okay? Like, we're going to short sell Game Bites, but to you wouldn't understand.
You know, I bet I would.
John, I just can't anymore. Save your drama for the page. I just can't.
What are you saying?
I think we need a break.
Awesome. No girlfriend, no work, no agent. Is this rock bottom? We're gonna do a short sell. You wouldn't understand. By the way, short selling, not that difficult. In a video game store, that's a pretty safe bet. The only way that could go wrong is if... Game Bites. We need to buy shares of it.
What? Why?
A bunch of hedgers are trying to short sell it. We all buy shares. That drives the price up. Then, when they go to pay up, it's worth more than what they paid for it. We win, they lose. You know, they always say if you can't beat them, join them. They never say join them to beat them. Kind of beat them at their own game.
You're really passionate about this.
It's personal.
We'll start buying slowly. We've got some big names involved too. By the time the markets close, should be at least double the price.
I'll be able to pay for my surgery.
I'll be able to knock out all that student loan debt. If we pull this off, it'll only be the beginning. They'll fear us because they'll have to. You know what destroys a market?
Fear. Let's do this.
I love it. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I have some questions. Not a lot of questions. I know you have to go. But Colin, pop up the GoFundMe link and let's run. Go ahead. Tell the people what to do.
Yeah, I mean, please do check it out. You can just, I know they left the link in the chat right there. And, if you need it later, you can just go to GoFundMe.com, type in Left It Wall, and it comes up. And yeah, everyone who gives, you get a personalized thank you on my podcast. I'll give you a thank you on Get Your News On with Ron. If you give a little bit, like if you give $100 or more, you get your name in the credits. And we're also going to be doing a virtual screening when it comes out, and there'll be a Q&A with the cast. So there's, some fun little perks if you give. It's not like anything, like tangible or anything, but there's, thank yous and ways to show our appreciation. So please do check it out. And if you are able to contribute, please do consider it. I know there's a lot of awesome causes out there that are worthy of your hard-earned dollars. But if you got some to spare and you want to help get this movie made, please do make a contribution. And, we appreciate it very much. And basically, as we get, the funds to do it, we're going to start making it. So, I'm not going to wait until I get every dime I'm hoping to get. I'm just going to start making it as we go. And I guess the other thing I will mention, and I don't know if there's anyone watching right now who this may apply to you, but we are looking for investors. So if you are someone who, has some means and wants to invest in a film, or maybe you do regularly invest in films, please do email me. Don't go to GoFundMe for that. That's not what GoFundMe is for. But email me personally. You can go to ronplacone.com and email me. We are looking for investors. So if that's you, please do get in touch. Investor means you would get, you would make an actual investment in the film and get points back on it. So yeah. And I'm hoping all the cast stays. I love the cast in the trailer.
Oh, I do too. Yeah.
As of right now, everybody's on for the actual film itself. I loved working with everybody. So hopefully they'll all be on board for the actual film. I mean, this is a trailer. So
talk a little bit about so when people help fund this, it goes to paying actors, paying locations.
Yeah.
What is it? What are people funding exactly?
Yeah, I mean, crew and DPs, which is directors of photography. I mean, they're expensive. I mean, they're not. They don't work for free, nor should they.
Sure.
I will say that everyone involved with this project really wants to be part of it. So, I'm pretty lucky in that regard. But yeah, I mean, everyone definitely needs to get paid, and I need to pay all the actors, and I need to pay all the crew, and I need to have food available each day that we shoot. The way I wrote this film, I wrote it with the intention of making it. So there's only like one or two scenes that the location might get a little tricky and might cost some money. Everything else, we're just kind of going to be on site doing our thing. But, but there is there's one bar scene. So, I'm going to have to pay for that location, which is also not cheap. So yeah, making a movie is a very expensive endeavor. And, but I have, between crowdfunding and hopefully some investors and, my own personal, I funded the trailer myself. I just funded it, with my own money. And I was like, we're going to make a trailer to, foreshadow the movie we're going to make. It is totally a trailer, meaning none of those scenes are going to be in the actual movie. It's two separate things. But that's what the movie's about. And yeah, I mean, I've been. This is one of those, kind of foot in the sand moments or what is stake in the sand? What's the phrase? But, every comedian kind of has that where you're really just sort of this is who I am. And for me, it's I've been wanting to get into scripted for a long time. I've written tons of pilots that have never seen the light of day because no one's purchased them. And this is, the first thing I wrote, not the only
for
thing
non-Hollywood people. That's a first episode to a potential show, right?
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yes, you're right. Yes, yeah. Pilot's like an episode for a show, and then you pitch it to a bunch of networks, and then you write what's called a Bible, where you kind of like flesh out what a season would look like. And then if you're lucky, the network tells you to go fuck yourself as opposed to nothing at all. And that's showbiz, kids. It's great. But
That's showbiz. Yeah.
but yeah, so this is the first thing I wrote, not the only thing I've written, but the first thing that I've written where it's like, I'm writing this with the intention of making it. So I'm going to put my freaking, I'm just putting it out there and I'm like, I'm going to make this freaking thing. So that's, that's what's going to happen. We're going to break ground hopefully very soon.
Hell yeah.
And we're going to make this movie.
That's
awesome. I'm excited. And hopefully you're going to see a segment from Status Coup in there.
Yes, absolutely. We will definitely be on board. I have to say, it's I think probably pretty rare these days to laugh in a movie that's supposed to be, have some laughs in it, and even less so for a trailer that's supposed to have some laughs in it. I laughed.
Oh, good.
It's good. It's
Thank you.
I'm so excited. This is fantastic. I definitely urge everybody to go to gofundme.com/left-at-wall. Left at
Yeah,
wall.
I think there's like an F in there too. It's like if you just go to GoFundMe.com. Yeah.
It resolves itself to
Does
go,
it? Okay.
to go there.
All
But
right,
I'll give the full one. GoFundMe.com/F/left-at-wall. But we will pop it again in the chat here. I'm really excited. This is fantastic. You're obviously hilarious, and this movie's going to be great, and it's so important. So if anyone, obviously we understand that this is a really difficult financial time for everybody, but if you have disposable cash and want to support, a true progressive who does a hell of a lot of work for the movement and for other people, and to help make this what is going to be an incredible movie, go for it. Do it. Every little bit helps for sure, no matter how small. If you have the means, go for it. And also contact Ron individually if you are someone who has the potential to invest in such a project.
Yeah, please do. We are looking for them. So if that's you, hit me up and ask me, any kind of business oriented details. Please feel free to ask. I will, fill that in. So
who's the playing the girlfriend? I love her. She's
that
great.
is an actress named Kimberly Hill, and okay. Kimberly is awesome.
She's great.
I just found everybody by putting out a casting call. I just kind of said hey, I'm casting this project. It's not, it's not a ton of money, but it is paid, and let me know. And when I saw her reel, she plays a lot of drama roles, and the role of Sarah, that's the character's name in the movie, who is my girlfriend. My character's name is John. I wanted somebody drama for Sarah because John is just such a freaking goofball, and he, he has a temper, like you see in the, he gets himself into trouble, as you see in the trailer. But he's such just kind of out there, and he's this Hollywood writer in his own head a lot. So I needed someone kind of more drama and kind of more grounded to play her. And Kimberly just knocked it out of the park. And I can't wait to do the entire film with her. And Jack Blade, the character in the I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but that's basically like a cerebral. He's in a Reddit room. We renamed the website Red Room, but he's kind of that's how he envisions. Yeah, he envisions all the users that way in his head. And my vision for Jack Blade was that I envisioned a Tyler Durden type personality.
All right.
So I envisioned a male, like I envisioned that character as a man at first, but when I got Liz Ann's, that's the girl who played Jack Blade, when I got her trailer and I looked at her stuff, I just kind of thought, oh man, no, Jack Blade's a female and she's got to play Jack Blade. And so I sent her the script and I asked her to do it. I'm like, I originally had this in mind for so she was like, well, what do you envision for the character? And I just said, picture Tyler Durden meets Jean Grey.
Oh,
And
my
that might
God.
sound weird to you, but just watch it and read it and see what you think.
Yeah.
And I feel like she nailed it. And so I can't wait for her to bring that role to life for the full length film. And then of course, Gareth, I mean, I love Gareth's stuff. And we were just cracking each other up the whole time filming that thing. So, I can't wait. I mean, Gareth was the first person I thought of for the role, and he read the script and he's like, oh yeah, dude, I want to do this. He's like, you're playing the main guy. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, so we're brothers. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, that's hilarious. And, I feel like there's a bit of, what's the word for it? Like a symbolic omen type thing, like good vibes, or like maybe a totem. I don't know if that's the right use of that phrase, but the day we were shooting was the day that the Euro Cup was going on, and it was the final. So here's a film where Gareth and I are rivals. We are brothers and we are kind of rivals. And a lot of the film is about our relationship as brothers who are butting heads. And that final game was England versus Italy. And I am of Italian descent and have family over there. And Gareth is a dual citizen in England. So I felt like I was like, that's a sign. That is a sign that we are on to something good and that this movie's going to happen. And then Jen dropped a can. These are good freaking omens.
I kicked something over on my.
That was your excitement.
Sorry,
you were
guys.
like, whoa, what a coincidence.
Whoa, I can't contain myself.
I can't contain it.
Absolutely. I'm really excited. I think that's incredibly cool. Major kudos to you for writing and getting ready to produce and make this. Everyone, run over to the GoFundMe right now. By the way, Ron, I don't know if you know, but my background is in marketing, so I'm happy to help in any way that I can. I have over a decade experience in marketing and etc. So,
all right. Hey, drop me an email because this is my first indie film, and this is I never really thought I'd be on this end of it, but it's kind of like I wrote this thing and I'm like, we got to make it. And so, here I am. This is my first one. I'm learning as I go. It's been a learning process. A lot of my friends that are in that world have been like holding my hand and have probably already put up with a lot of stupid questions, and they'll probably have to put up with a lot more of them before this is over. But they're very patient, wonderful people who I'm so stoked to work with. And I'll give a shout out to Kevin Ronca from Right Brain Studios, who edited this thing, and our DPs, and my buddy Anthony, who was, who helped out on the audio some. And yeah, I can't wait to break ground on the film itself. So.
Incredibly exciting. Everyone, go to gofundme.com/f/left-at-wall or /left.
It's weird how they do the URLs. Yeah.
Let's start over. gofundme.com/left-at-wall. It's up on the screen. It's in the chat. Go there. No matter how much or how little or whatever you can support Ron's movie with, go for it. It matters. It really, really helps. All of it helps. So very excited for you, Ron. And we really, really appreciate you coming on the show today. It was a great chat. We got so many lovely comments about the banter and the conversation. So you're definitely a great guest. Tell people how they can find you normally.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Ron Placone. I'm also at Ron Placone on all the socials. YouTube/Ron Placone is just my channel where I do my show, Get Your News On with Ron. And I drop a lot of short videos too, where I just kind of rant about something on the beach. Because I like going to the beach, and it's more fun that way. And
when it's right out your window, how could you
come visit?
Oh my God,
I got a couch with your name on it. Come visit anytime. You're welcome.
And I love
anytime.
your wife. Yeah, I want to come.
You are invited anytime. You got an open invite, and you can follow me there. And my website is just ronplacone.com, where someday there will be tour dates again. And, you can also check out the movie trailer. It is my pinned tweet. And you can also find it on my YouTube channel, on my Rockfin channel. I'm just Ron Placone everywhere. I'm easy to find. I'm still learning TikTok, but I think I'm on there. I'm slowly, follow me. I kind of know what I'm doing. I don't really know what, but I post videos. I mean, I do that.
We post videos, but we haven't yet tailored them to TikTok. So it's a whole thing. We're just reposting less than a minute long videos. So yeah. So anyway, we definitely will look for you on the TikTok.
I'm on the TikTok.
As well as all of the other
we've really just out millennialed ourselves there. We
you
just
still
gotta
call
the
it
TikTok.
the Twitter, the YouTube. You have to do all of that
Totally.
to be an old elder millennial, as they
That's
say.
right. Yes.
We're not even in the typical millennial portion. We're not as
we're the ones that remember playing outside is your only option.
Exactly.
We're just old enough to remember that. And we
remember
can tell,
being called back inside from
Yes.
playing in the neighborhood, etc.
Mhm.
All of that. Ron, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm going to read some super chats. You're welcome to say goodbyes and do whatever you have to do.
Well, yeah, thank you all for being here. I actually do. I got Rolling Stones tickets tonight, so I do have
Are
to
you
run.
kidding me? That's
I know. I broke down.
incredible.
I've seen them once, and I saw them years ago at Wrigley Field in Chicago. It was a gift. It was amazing. My wife's never seen them,
Oh
so we
my
were talking about it.
gosh.
And yeah, I was just like, you know what? I mean, I have a feeling they'll be touring until
That's
the
so
day they're
cool.
all dead. But Charlie Watts left us, which rest in power, Charlie, one of the greatest drummers in rock and roll. But I wrote what I'd like to consider a tribute joke for him. I feel like it's like a good joke in someone's memory. I said the moment his heart stopped was the only time he ever missed a beat in his life.
Aw,
And it's like,
that's so
yeah,
nice.
that's like a
That's so
sweet tribute
nice.
joke,
It's a sweet joke. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that.
and so I thought, well, we should go. And for some reason, tickets actually aren't crazy expensive here for the Rolling Stones. But this is
Mhm.
Los Angeles, so they're like, parking, you're screwed.
Right,
So,
parking.
so
and
they
then all the
still
other
got
stuff.
us, but whatever. It's like it's outdoors, and so yeah, I'm going to see the Rolling Stones tonight.
Oh, that's so cool.
I should
Have
run.
the best time ever.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Kisses to your wife. And
you.
yeah, let's keep in touch. Send me that script. I want to read it.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me. I love what
Of
you guys do.
course.
You guys are doing such important things. And I lean on you guys on a regular basis for my show because of all the investigative journalism you do that we all depend on. So, much love to you. And I mean, Tina, I see on the regular. She's
Of
the West Coast.
course.
She's the West
Yeah.
Coast Bureau.
Yep.
So I see her on the
Yep.
regular. And of course, Jordan. And love what
Uh-huh.
you guys do. Always happy to
Thank
stop
you. You're one of the good ones. Thank you so much, Ron. Have the best time tonight.
by. Cheers. Be well.
Bye. You too.
Peace.
All right, my friends, that was so fun. Ron is fantastic. Let me read through some of these super chats. So Beauty and the Diabetes, Dawn, 5 months Status Coup member, woohoo, on YouTube. When you reach a certain, monthly contribution, it gives you a shout out on YouTube. So awesome, Donna. Thank you for your moderator help. It really, really is great. Lana Del Hates the Clock, $5 in the super chat. We need rolling strikes, and that needs to be organized. Discussions are in the works. Interesting. I'd love to actually talk to you about rolling strikes, like what that would look like and what that means. Very, very interesting to me. And I think strikes are so important, and strikes can really get action because the way that you change the mind of these elites is by hitting them in the pocketbooks. Absolutely. Alex Arvanitis, $4.99 in the super chat. Hey all, happy Thursday. Keep up the valuable work. Thank you so much, Alex. Lana again. Stagnant wages, major issue because federal government policy deliberately creates unemployment. This is why we need a federal jobs guarantee, 100%. Jean Genevieve, Working class solidarity, 100%. Lana, again, Germany also has a rule, not sure how large the company needs to be to avoid the threshold. 30% of the board needs to be workers. Oh, that's great. I think that would be fantastic. Lana, again, you're incredible. Jen, I tagged you on Twitter with a very important article and very scary. Goes with what Ron is saying. I will definitely look for that. Notary saying, thanks for covering the strikes. Of course. And that's what we do. That's what we're all about. Covering the strikes, covering what's happening with workers. Amber League, Brygo, American Airlines, and Amtrak are striking now. I actually didn't realize either of those. That's fantastic. Good. Very good. Aspen Fallen, I love getting my news on with Ron. Great guest. Ron's fantastic, and he is just as nice in person as you think he would be on screen. He's just a good person. He's very funny. Really, really like Ron. Steve Wolfbrand saying, let our allies unite. Don't be canceling everyone. We're going to need everybody, even the working class right. I do agree with that. I'm on record as saying, like, I don't think we should align or ally with Boogaloo Boys and the like, because their stated goals are to start a race war and to literally infiltrate and trick the left for their, nefarious purposes. So I will not ally with people like that. I will not be an ally to Proud Boys, etc. But as far as, I love dearly people on the right. I love dearly some Trump supporters. So I completely understand the sentiment. I do have a line, however, and I think that people should. But I understand. Faint Signals from Vega. Tipped. Thank you, Trish. Mad Ocelot God saying time banks plus tool libraries equals DIY jobs program, maybe practical, social, and productive potential, something to consider. I don't, maybe email me. I don't completely understand what you're saying. info@statuscoup.com. Lana again saying maybe we need a new show. I disagree with myself. Show old clips and discuss. That's actually, I think that would probably be really valuable. I think it is kind of forbidden for people to admit that they were wrong, but I think we need more of that. I have been so wrong in the past. I'm actually going to end the show early. Hold on, because I think my son is calling. 1 second. 1 second, guys.
Hey, Mom.
Hey, buddy. Okay, so that is my son. And I want to say that I think we have to be able to disagree with ourselves, to be able to change our minds based on new information, based on new experiences. And importantly, we need to allow that space for other people. So if someone maybe did things wrongly in the past or offensively in the past, we need to allow space for people to change and to grow. So yeah, I think that's actually a really, really good and interesting idea. So anyway, I've been live for 100 hours now. I'm going to do a live tomorrow as well. Hopefully I will have, actually we're going to do Rockfin tomorrow, but I do have a guest planned for the Rockfin. I'll do a YouTube preview before, and it'll be great. So definitely, if you haven't yet, please check out Ron's movie GoFundMe. I'm going to paste that link again. And I love you all. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for watching today. And definitely give some kudos to Ron. Follow him. Follow all of the organizations we've talked about today who are kind enough to share their footage. And you guys are great. Thank you so much. And have a good Thursday night, or whatever it is where you are. Bye, guys.